Hello and welcome to the third round of the UIM E1 World Championship presented by PIF. 10 teams, 20 pilots preparing to compete in the all-electric showdown to maximise their results at the Adriatic Luxury Hotel Dubrovnik GP 2026. So a lovely event to go. And my name is Ben Edwards. I've been joined by E1 pilot race winner, jet girl Anna Glennon. And Anna, we have just been enjoying the first stage of qualifying, and it means that the top 8 will be going into the next stage of qualifying, but it means that we have lost the bottom 2.
Yes, it can be completely brutal being those two teams at the bottom. You know, no matter what happened during the day, when you get cut like that, it's just not a good feeling. And from here, for those two teams, they still have a shot at winning on Saturday, but from here, they need to regroup, get things together, try and sort out whatever problems they had, and come back tomorrow. But tonight, I'm sure they're not feeling good. I have been there before, and it is a very helpless, uncomfortable feeling.
It's great to see how close, though, the combined. So what those times are the times of both pilots combined and then split by 2. Drogba, Brady, Monaco, all on 1:19 when split between their two pilots. So we could be in for some great battles. Well, here we are, looking forward to some more great action at Dubrovnik. It's the second time that E1 has ever come to this event, and it is one of the most popular places to come and visit, of course, with the historic nature of this part of the world. And for the racing, you competed here when they were racing last year, Anna. So always challenging, and once you get into these stages of qualifying, of course, bit by bit, you've just got to keep on going.
Don't let the picturesque backdrop fool you. These are some of the most technical conditions that these pilots are going to face all season long. We have big rolling waves coming from different directions all over the track, and they're also bouncing back off the shoreline. So it can be very tricky, and we've seen pilots struggle with that today.
Indeed. Well, we have a specific layout of the track itself, so let's take a look at that.
So this particular track, like I said, is very unique because you're heading straight on into a lot of different situations here with the waves. So that huge start straightaway that you see at the front side of the track is very difficult to keep the racebird foiling. And as you head towards the back side of the track, that sweeping left-hand corner, you're headed face first into those waves as well that can very easily upset the racebird. As you head back towards the left side of the track, you're going downwards into those waves where you could upset the racebird. And that left-handed corner has slowed down a lot of pilots today when they're getting a little too much drag on the wing, and they're losing a lot of time between that last corner and that big long start straightaway. So I think there's going to be a lot of time to be made on that last sector of the track.
Okay, that's a good point. And how you use the boost as well, and how you use the foils, and how high you want to go, and all that sort of stuff is such a key part of trying to put together the fastest lap.
Some of the fastest pilots today have found kind of a happy medium where the racebird is not too high and it's not too low. When you're dealing with these big rollers, you don't want to keep the belly too wet.
So this is the first step. We've got Blue Rising with John Peters, Team Rafa with Chris Ladraga, we've got Miami with Timmy Hansen, and Westbrook with Lucas Ordonez. So they are the first 4 that will be going for it. And remember that as we go through each of these sessions, you do not want to be the slowest in each group, because then you'll get knocked out going into the final stages.
I think pilots to watch in this session are going to be John Peters and Lucas Ordonez. You know, John Peters is typically one of the fastest qualifiers. He had a little bit of a bumpy start this morning, not terrible qualifying times, but not as fast as some of the other pilots that we usually see him on pace with. So it's very possible that he went in, kind of regrouped, came up with some different strategies, and maybe we'll see a faster lap from him here. And I would also say the same for Lucas Ordonez. He had a little bit of a slower start here, but he's consistently one of the fastest qualifiers, and Westbrook has done a really great job this year of working together as a team to kind of regroup and make things work.
Absolutely. So Lucas Ordonez, there he is, all set to get going. We've ticking away the time. Once that time clicks to 0, now it does, then it's up to them to decide when to go. They can do 2 flying laps during this session, but not one straight after the other. You've got to do 1 quick lap, then pause, and then go again. And you can decide whether you want to go fairly early or whether you want to go right towards the end of the session.
Throughout the day, some of the fastest laps have been the person that goes out for the very first lap, and that usually means they have the smoothest water. So as the session gets started, we may see someone bully to the front of the pack here to try and get that clean water. And historically, John Peters is one of those pilots that will bully his way to the front, but he seems to be kind of hanging back right now, so he may be waiting and watching.
And in fact, in this session, it's slightly different to the previous session. In the previous session, they could go pretty much when they wanted. But actually, in this session, now there's an order. The race director does determine who is going to be going first. So we will find that out in just a moment. You're looking at John Peters with Blue Rising, another one of the great experienced boat racers around the world. And yeah, Blue Rising are looking in pretty good form here at the moment. So Miami, which were the 8th fastest out of the 10 earlier on in the earlier sessions, they go first. It's Timmy Hansen on board.
The water's looking pretty rough. You can see the boat's kind of twitching left and right a little bit, and that's probably from those rollers that we've been talking about all day long. So hopefully he can maintain a smooth kind of foiling speed here and make up for a better lap time.
Yeah, let's see how this goes for Miami, for Timmy Hansen, and let's see whether they can improve on where they are in the series at this stage. They're only down in 9th place on 14 points. They've had a 7th place at Jeddah, 9th place at Lake Como.
I know in the past they had been struggling with the boat, but Timmy's lap times seem pretty consistent. I think it's just a matter of rallying the team to get both pilots with consistent lap times. So we'll see what they can come up with. You know, it looked like Timmy cut it a little close on one of those smart marks there, but I think that had a lot to do with the conditions. You know, some of these waves, like we saw earlier with Emma Kimiläinen, they may push the pilots into some of these smart marks if they're not kind of proactively looking for that. So Timmy's looking pretty good right now, and we'll see where he stacks up against the other pilots in this group.
Team owner for Miami, Mark Anthony, the great singer, songwriter and actor. Of course, all of these, nearly all of these teams have some very famous team owners, and it is, as I say, Mark Anthony for Miami. But let's see, how's this final part going? The first two sectors, I'm just looking at the times, they are reasonable, sort of level that we've been seeing from others so far.
He took that last lap rather wide. I'm not sure if that was in an effort to kind of straighten it out to get a good run at the finish, but the time is not really looking that good for Timmy Hansen. He had a good drive initially coming out of that corner and then lost it a little bit at the end, but it's quite a bit slower than his time earlier. Yeah,
it is, 124.9. That is a little bit disappointing because remember, we've been seeing quite a few teams getting below 1 minute 20, and several even combined with the different pilots have been under 120 at 119. So 124, not great, but as you were telling me, Anna, we always see it changes a little bit, the layout changes on the water. You can never know if it's going to be faster or slower as you go into another session.
Absolutely. A lot of this is just the luck of the draw, and you know, you may hit a big roller on one side of the track and then have a smooth run on the other side of the track. So that's kind of the beauty of water sport, is that the water is changing. You know, it's not even lap by lap, it's every couple feet. So, you know, it can make a big difference for these pilots, and they're having to constantly be on their toes, especially when they're piloting something as sensitive as the racebird.
So, right, it's time to go with Team Rafa now. Chris Lazaraga, she's going to see whether she can improve on that 124.9. And let's see how it goes going into the first section. They had a tough time last time at Lake Como.
It looks like the racebird, their racebird in particular, really seems to be rolling to the left quite a bit. And I think that has a lot to do with those waves that are coming in from the outside of the track, kind of the racebird's kind of driving into them and rolling into those waves. So you can see Christina really having to be on and off the steering to keep the boat straight as she's navigating through those, but she looks pretty smooth. You know, I know it's not what they want, but they look so much better than Lake Como, especially considering these conditions. So I'm really hoping it's a step in the right direction for these guys.
She's a little slower in the first sector than we have seen so far, Chris Lazaraga, but as you say, yeah, Lake Como was a tough one for them. They actually ended up last in the race. They were standard as 10th, and it's the first time the team had actually ever finished last at an event. So they really want to come back this weekend if they possibly can. But that first sector wasn't ideal. Let's see how this is going.
You could kind of see her, you know, as the waves were rolling in there, she kind of bounced out to the side a little bit. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where when you get into the rough water conditions, sometimes it's not losing control, but you have a little bit less control over where the nose may bounce. And that's when we get into situations like we saw with Emma Kimiläinen getting close to that smart mark earlier. So that's going to play a big role, I think, as we kind of get in together with some of these other boats on the track at the same time.
It's always a bit of a joy watching the up and down, and the pilot having to try and sort just how much it goes up and down, and the foil doing its job of picking it up off and across the line. So it's a 128.6. Gosh, that is really quite a long way off what we were seeing earlier. It does imply that the sea has got a little bit slower on this run, but we'll find out a bit more. But that was slow, yeah.
It's hard to say, if the water condition is actually rougher or not, because Timmy may have had a slower run, but the boat didn't really seem disturbed very much. So
No.
I don't know necessarily that the conditions have actually gotten rougher or not. I think key indicators for how rough the sea is getting are going to be the left side of the track, where the boats are kind of driving into the back side of the waves. So if the boats seem like they're kind of bouncing around and it looks like a little bit of a rodeo down there, then yes, I would say that the water conditions are probably getting a little bit bigger. But, they looked pretty stable considering. So, it may just be a line choice at this point. Both of them really seem to take the longer, wider lap around the track to try and carry speed, and it may just have been too much real estate.
Well, this one might give us a better idea, because Westbrook have put in some good laps, even though they're in this slightly lower group at the moment, but they have the potential to go through to the final stages of qualifying. But this will be interesting to see how Lucas Ordóñez gets on with his first flying lap. Remember, they all have a second opportunity, a second lap in this session. The first lap is important to just get a real feel for how the sea is feeling right now and whether you need to tweak or change the way you're doing it.
He's got very good drive coming into the first corner. The boat's staying nice and stable. He's choosing, it looks like, to ride quite a bit lower than the other two teams that just went, and that may pay off for him here. But he does have to be careful, as he's heading straight into the waves here, that the belly of the boat doesn't get too close to those rollers. But it looks like he's driving pretty well through there right now.
Yeah, he looks efficient so far, and let's just see as he comes through that first sector. That's actually very similar to what we've seen from others. It's not that much quicker, interestingly, so it does indicate that first sector is proving to be a little slower than it was. Maybe the whole lap is effectively, but it's looking reasonable.
This is the section I was speaking about where, you can hear it. It sounds like it's hitting the water quite a bit, so it may be getting a little bit rougher throughout the track, but they seem to be handling it pretty well. But I will say, as the sea gets rougher, you do have to take a different line to try and stay faster. So if they don't adapt to that, that could be what's making them a little bit slower.
Ordóñez has done a better job in the middle sector than other two so far, so this potentially is definitely a chance to set the outright pace for the Spanish pilot. Let's see whether...
Got too much drag going on right there. I think that slowed him down quite a bit.
Okay, is it under 120 or not? No, it's not. It's over 120, but only just 120.9, but it does go fastest in the group. So there's a big gap, actually, because sometimes you get a very tight gap, but you've got a 7.6 gap between the three at the moment.
I will say in his last sector, as he kind of rounded the bend on that, the last corner there, he got the wing just a little bit too wet, and it really dragged him under, and I think that is probably what slowed him down from the lap time that we saw earlier. So I think that Lucas has it in him. He just needs to clean it up in a couple spots, and I think he'll be right about where he was earlier.
Okay, well, this is all proving to be quite intriguing at this stage as we go through each of these sections, and we are going to be seeing Blue Rising, seeing what they can do as well.
With John Peters up next, he was speaking with Taylor earlier about his experience in sailing, and now he had a lot of experience with the wind and the waves, and he's got to be careful now, because he told everyone he has experience, and if he doesn't run a fast lap, we're gonna have to give him a hard time.
Absolutely, he knows what he's doing. Well, in theory he does, and let's see whether John Peters, who is doing a great job. He did his first full season last year. He won at Monaco last year, so he's done some 10 entries so far. He's had 6 podiums. He's had that one win. How's it going to go together this weekend?
The drive on the Team Blue Rising boat looks really level. Like I said earlier, this boat, no matter where John puts it, it always kind of finds its way back to center, which is critical when you're dealing especially with waves like this, but also with the Racebird, which can be a little bit finicky to drive. So John's looking pretty good so far. Let's see how he takes this first corner, if he goes the long route to kind of keep the speed up like some of the other pilots have, or if he goes for the more aggressive route.
Yeah, it's looking reasonably smooth, but that first sector is very much in the mix with the others. Not the fastest, 29.1 in that first sector, a little bit off the 28.2, the fastest in this session that we have seen so far. But in the balance, hopefully, there is a chance to get up towards the top, maybe second. Let's see.
The middle sector for him looked really smooth. A lot of the other pilots were falling off the foil as they were driving into the backside of the waves, and John kept it very nice, so hopefully that pays off for him here. He's taking pretty aggressive corners, really boxing them off, not really taking the wider line like some of these other pilots have. You can see it right there. He kind of snapped around the corner there. So it's efficient because you're taking the shortcut, if you will, but it does get the boat quite a bit more wet.
Yeah, can he beat Miami, or is he going to be in between Miami and Rafa? Let's see.
He's looking good.
Coming over the line. Yeah, he's not going to go fastest of all, but does he? Yes, he does beat Miami. He gets that 1:23.7, so just over a second ahead, in fact, overall ahead of Miami. So that was a good job, wasn't it?
It's hard to say, you know, he did do a really good run. It's hard to say if we're dealing with conditions getting slower or not. These pilots were in a group earlier that was overall slower than the opposing group. So I'm curious to see if when the other group comes out, if we see faster lap times or if we see consistently slower across the board. And then I'll probably be convinced that the conditions have gotten worse.
Absolutely. Well, for Team Rafa, of course, it's a challenge at the moment because Chris Lazaraga is currently the slowest of this group, and that's putting you into a bit of a dangerous position. So you need to get a second flying lap that much better.
It's definitely a tough decision, a tough situation to be in when you're struggling with a boat like that, but it is a step in the right direction, I feel like, compared to their previous round in Lake Como. But obviously we want to see more from them, especially since they've been such a fierce competitor at some of the rounds in the past. Yeah,
so you're on board with Miami once again. So going for the second flying lap here goes Timmy Hansen. So Timmy did that 1:24.9 in the first run, which is some way off, of course. It's not the slowest, but it's not quite where you would expect him to be. There's more to come here.
He didn't really have to drive over the start-finish line like he had in the previous laps. Previously, he had come across the line, you know, up on the foil and really charging forward, and this time he was kind of dragging the bottom of the hole across the line, which is probably a result of those rollers. So a little bit slower of a start for him, but he still has time to make it up.
Well, let's see. That's this first sector coming along right now, and it's reasonable, but we shall see. I'm not sure it's going to be quite that much quicker. It's very similar to what we've seen from the others so far.
You can see they're really dragging the rear of the boat through the water. I'm not sure if that's a selection on the settings or if they're just kind of struggling with the water condition, but that drag's really going to slow them down. As they enter the corner here, we'll see if he can keep the wing up out of the water, but it does look like the drag is really slowing him down here. But if he gets a good drive at the end, he could make it work.
Let's hope so. And I feel for the team. They really need some good results. They've had a bit of a tough time so far this year. 7th overall in Jeddah, 9th overall at Lake Como. So they really want to try and get a chance to score more points this weekend. Just a few points available today, but you're getting yourself sorted for the racing tomorrow when the big points are on offer. Well, across the line, and it is an improvement. So a 1:21.597 has put him into second position. So that is definitely a good improvement.
Like I said earlier, it looked like he really had a good drive at the end. So, you know, he kept it up on the foils. He was definitely under the boost. So I think that made up for some of the missteps with the drag a little bit earlier in the lap. So like I said, I think the make it or break it here on this track is that last charge, the last corner on the track, and then the charge to the finish line. And if you mess that up, I think it can ruin a really fast lap.
Okay, well, that was well done. That was extremely impressive, really. So that does put Miami into a pretty safe position going forward, hopefully. We shall see how that all comes together once we get into the next stage. He'll be sharing with Rihanna Amira Hunt, and there she is. She'll have to see what they can get out of the next session that they do. But Rafa are the slowest so far. So this is absolutely crucial for Chris Lazaraga, because she needs to really put together a decent lap now, doesn't she?
Absolutely. You know, it's going to be a really hard day for them to come back from this, but, you know, who knows? If she gets into some good water condition, she could outpace some of these people possibly. You know, they may be the slowest, but, you know, miracles can happen. I really feel for the team as they're struggling. The good news is it looks like the balance of the boat is very good. I know they had struggled with the stability of the boat previously, and it looks very stable, but it just lacks the speed. So the stability is really important, and if you're a talented pilot and it has the stability, you can drive a slow boat fast. So I'm curious to see what the rest of the day is going to look like for them, but I feel for them because they're definitely struggling right now.
Yeah, it is proving to be a bit of a tough one. First sector, yeah, not great. 30.1 seconds, so about a second or two off what we have seen from the others so far. Unless, of course, you look at the sectors, sometimes it's because they might be using boost in a different way, of course. And as you mentioned, how you balance the race boat just on this type of conditions. Here gives us a good view here. How do you feel about that?
Looking good in Sector 2. You know, compared to the other boats, I think Team Rafa keeps the boat the flattest in the corners, which is really impressive. I haven't really seen any other boats manage to have that level of stability. So whenever they come around the corner, the boat is usually out of the water and almost like pivoting around the corners, which is really impressive. So hopefully she can make an improvement here. Very good. As you say, that second sector, fastest of this group so far. So this could be a good improvement. Let's hope so, as she comes over the line. 122.8, and that has helped. It's put her into third. It's not complete safety, but that is definite big improvement from where she was. Keeping the boat out of the water in that second sector, I think, really helped them. They had a really smooth run. I think had she not kind of dragged the bottom of the hole a little bit on that last approach, I think she would have been right up there, which is great because that means maybe there's a Hail Mary in there somewhere. So good on them. I know they're struggling with the boat right now, but they're making it work. Okay, well, we'll see how this goes because, of course, this has put Blue Rising down to the bottom, but John Peters is going to have another chance shortly, although it'll be, there you are, there is John, who will be getting ready shortly to come back out, have another go at this, and we've got the opportunity for him to see if he can go quicker. That was a 123.7 that he did earlier on, so he needs to gain just over a second to get ahead of one. A couple of seconds would make him really safe, I would think. Right now, typically when you're sitting in the cockpit like this, you're probably listening to your engineer, getting some information, some intel on the other pilots and what they were doing and how you can improve your lap. But right now we have Westbrook on the approach to the starting line right now. These guys still have room to really solidify their spot. Yeah, because they're fastest already, and Westbrook with Lucas Ordóñez setting that pace at 120.9 is already safe, effectively. Just now, when you're in this situation and when you've had a good first bit of qualifying, you can almost take the risks then, can't you? Because you think, yeah, go on, let's see, because I'll find out for later when I've got another big battle. Typically, when you set a good lap and you're kind of sitting up at the top there, that's, like I said, you check back in with your engineers, with your team, and you see where you can improve, and you want to push those settings to kind of see where the boundary is, because ultimately, you know, while you want to win qualifying is what's going to set you up for race day. So you're looking at the settings to try and make things as fast as possible. So come race day, hopefully you're untouchable. Absolutely. And of course, when we get into race day, don't forget they will be doing a short lap and a long lap in each of the races. Today, though, they just stick with the main lap for the qualifying, which is perfectly right, and it will still be the key part, really, to the races. It's just fun having short lap and long lap as well to add to the fun and games of it all. Yeah, the beauty of the strategic laps is that it can help pilots like, for example, Team Rafa, who are struggling with a slower boat. When the strategy comes into play, you know, you could go from last to first. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that was a tight line from Lucas. They really moved away from the large sweeping line, and they're really running something very tight right now. Hopefully this last approach goes smoothly for him, and maybe he can log a faster lap. Yeah, because he's done a very good middle sector already, so this potentially could be challenging for the fastest lap. 120.9 is the time to beat. Can he beat that? Yes, 119.5, so it goes fastest. Well done. It really looks like Sector 2 and 3 are the key to having a fast lap. You know, like I said earlier, that final approach is really important, but I also think that the drive into the last corner is really important as well. And that transitional yellow marker kind of in the middle of the track can be kind of tricky to corner around. And I think here Lucas really showed that pays off, so I'm sure he's pretty happy right now. Absolutely. John Peters is going to have to deliver for Blue Rising. He has the potential to do it. Let's see, you're on board with him right now. And at the bottom at this stage, it's a risky area, but we know that he can produce some remarkable pace, and we've seen it before from him. So this is going to be a fun one to watch and just see where they get to. Lake Como was a funny one for them last time because they only qualified down in 10th place and got to finish second in the actual race. Speaking about the drive to the starting line that I was mentioning earlier, you'll notice that John was way back in the milling area before he really really put the pedal down, and that is to help get the boat moving and level before you hit the start finish line. You know, if you were to wait and not gather your speed beforehand, you know, it takes a little bit longer for the boat to get up on the foils, get to speed. So having a good drive to the start finish is really important, and typically you're going to apply the boost right about here to really push it across the start line.
But then it's that first turn that you always keep an eye on, isn't it? To how much do you dip, how close do you go in? Pretty close, but not as close as we've sometimes seen.
I think some of the fastest laps we've seen today have really hugged that first corner, but you have to be cautious because if you hug it too hard, you're going to slow down quite a bit if you create too much drag. So John, again, is one of the pilots with some pretty aggressive steering, so you'll see him kind of dip in really tight here. You'll hear the water kind of hitting the boat as the wing gets wet. He's definitely one of the more aggressive steerers, but like I said, taking the tight line around the track is like taking a shortcut.
And he set the fastest first sector, only by a fraction. It's by a couple of tenths of a second, but that was a really good first sector.
So I think here, Sector 2 and Sector 3 are what's really going to make the difference. He kind of stumbled a little bit coming into Sector 2, but if he keeps it up, I think he's going to be in a good spot. And it's this last corner that we've seen John kind of rodeo out of it and kind of not mess it up, but not run as smoothly as some of the other pilots. So if he can clean this up, I think he's going to have a really fast lap.
Yeah, the middle sector is not his best. He's kind of lost nearly a second there in comparison, but it would still put him into a safe place. That's the key. He doesn't have to be fastest in this session, but what about that bounciness there?
You could see that rodeo kind of happening there, and I think that's the risk with running the tighter line around this track, is that side of the track is very rough, and when you run that tight line, you just run the risk of dipping the boat down in the water and making it bounce too much. But you know, it still looked like a better lap than earlier.
Oh yeah, but he's just gone up to third, but that, you're right, that final sector was not good. That was the slowest of the final sectors effectively that everyone's done, but he has put him up into third place.
I think the risk there with that tight line, especially as you're coming into the backside of the waves there, is to have what just happened to John happen. So I think that's why some of the other pilots were taking a much wider line, but you run the risk of driving a little bit too far and it takes you too long to get back on the racing line. So I think John may have done himself a little bit dirty there, but it was still a lot better.
Wow, that was a tough one. There's no doubt about it. We'll have a chance to have a chat. This is TV talking to you, John Peters. John, well done. That first part of that lap looked good. The final part looked a bit challenging.
Yeah, when we were sitting there in the staging area, I saw a nice big boat come in through, and so when I was getting on the plane for the second lap, I knew I was going to hit those rollers as they came back through. So this is what it is, and that's the luck of the draw.
Well done. Okay, well, thank you for that. And it's great to have our opportunity to have a little bit of a chat after they've done this. But that was impressive by several of the drivers. Westbrook certainly doing a really good job there. But for Team Rafa, I'm afraid they were slowest. Let's go and join Taylor.
Down here with Chris, Team Rafa, you were just speaking with your teammate Tom there. You guys did finish fourth out of your group of four. It's still not over yet, but this is not really the position you want to be in right now.
I think it was third, actually, but okay. I think it was third. Maybe it was fourth, I don't know. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where is our pace. We don't know if the boat has a problem. It's a tough day today.
It definitely is a tough day, but we've seen from other teams, especially last race in Como, that honestly anything can happen, right? I think Brady showed us last time qualifying results really don't mean anything when it comes to race day, but it does do a little bit of something to your mental. So you just got to get over that part of it.
Yes, of course we will work because tomorrow Rafa Nadal is coming, team owner will be here, so we have to perform as best as we can.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
And that's absolutely right, because today's not quite come together to plan as they would have been hoping for Team Rafa. But tomorrow, when the real points, so the big points, are on offer, then of course there is an opportunity to put it all back together again. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a tough day for Team Rafa. Let's have a look at the results then. And the fastest pace in that taken by Westbrook at a 1:19.5. Miami second fastest, but just so close with Blue Rising. Very, very tight. But for Team Rafa, down in fourth place, we will lose the slowest of the four into the next part of qualifying, which is, of course, a disappointment for them. the highlights there of this stage at Dubrovnik, but lots still to learn. Let's go back to Taylor.
Lucas, we're down here just having finished your group for that qualifying session, and you put in that top lap. All smiles down here. What does it feel like to kind of get that, you know, you're going through to the next qualifying round?
Yeah, absolutely. It feels good. No, once I did the good bank lap. No, in the first lap I did a 20 point something. I was already P1. It felt good, and talking to my engineer, give me the lap times on the second round for Rafa and Miami, so I can stress out. I cannot think on any pressure. So I already knew I was qualified for Q3. We were qualified for Q3, so yeah, happy. I did like a pretty decent lap in the second run. I think it was like a 19.5. So yeah, there's still guys that are really running fast today, but yeah, we are happy being in Q3, and let's see, Sarah's next, and yeah, let's go.
Let's go. The excitement obviously is palpable from you. I watched John walk by. What's the vibe like down here with the other competitors?
Well, it's really cool. It's the first thing I say compared to motorsport or my background. The atmosphere in E1 series is really super cool. With not just with the other pilots, with the whole crew, with the engineers, with the mechanics, with the teams, with all the staff that are really working hard to have such a beautiful events like here in Dubrovnik. So yes, we're feeling like a family, and obviously we all want to win, we want to fight, and we have contact on course, but we are all friends outside, which is pretty cool. And for sure on Saturday night, whoever wins and whoever finishes will be all partying together. So that's pretty cool for E1.
I think I remember that party last year. It was a good time for sure.
Yeah, here in Dubrovnik is pretty good fun. So let's go for it.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you.
Well, lovely to catch up. And we are going to be enjoying some more of this qualifying battle, the ups and downs that goes on with all of the pilots. We are enjoying the second year of E1 powerboats at Dubrovnik, and we have a wonderful opportunity to see the build-up in qualifying as all of the teams are trying to establish that they can set the fastest laps and hopefully score some points as we get to the final stage. We're not there yet, but where 3 points will go to the fastest qualifier throughout the day, 2 points to the second fastest, 1 point to third fastest. Nobody else will score out of it, and we've got just under 2 minutes before we get the next part of qualifying getting underway. And what we are seeing coming out now will be the top 4 teams from the previous qualifying session. Aoki, Monaco, Brady and Drogba. They will all be going out once again, and we have seen some remarkable times, particularly from Drogba. Michael Wilkinson did an amazing 1:15.8 earlier today. I'm not sure that's going to be possible, but we'll see. There, we're on board Drogba, but it's Tyler Pacheco who's going to be competing in this particular one. But nonetheless, they did set the overall fastest pace, combining the two pilots' performances. So let's just confirm who we've got here. So it's Tyler Pacheco for Drogba, Sam Coleman will be out for Team Brady, Danny Kloss for Team Aoki, and Oban Duncan, she's out for Team Monaco.
I think the pilots to watch here are going to be Sam Coleman and Danny Kloss. You know, I know Emma Kimi-Lainen struggled earlier for Team Brady, but Sam Coleman had a very fast lap, and I think he knows where he needs to clean things up a little bit. And then Danny Kloss can be a little bit of a sleeper. You know, he's definitely had some of the fastest laps throughout the series. Seems like Aoki may be having a little bit of trouble today, but they're not too far off the pace. So, you know, they've had a couple sessions to kind of get to grips with the track situation and the conditions, so we may see a faster lap from them. But I'm pretty sure right now all eyes are probably on Team Brady.
Okay, this is going to be interesting. We'll see Aoki out first, and this was the place where Aoki won last year in 2025. Aoki won from Team Brady, with Alula were third in the big final, so that was with the maximum points. It was Rafa actually that had taken pole position here, but I don't think that's going to happen this time because Rafa dropped out in that previous session, sadly. But we are expecting Aoki to be a very strong team once again here.
I am curious to see how the conditions kind of yield this particular session. We've seen a few leisure boats cruise by as the racebirds are waiting in the milling area, so we may see some rougher conditions along the start straight here, which has really been the undoing of a lot of different pilots. But the session's officially underway, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so we'll be keeping an eye on Danny Kloss for Aoki, and you're riding on board with him right now, the 37-year-old Spaniard who is now picking it up. And will he be using boost now to get across the line?
Most teams have been kind of doing a controlled approach to the line here, trying to get the nose of the boat up in the air, keep the boat flying really well, and then, oh, maybe he used a little bit of boost to get the boat off of the water there, but he's holding onto it right now. And my guess is he's probably going to apply it just before the starting line here or just after it, once he knows he's got the boat flying really well. There it is. He just applied the boost just before the starting line there. That little bump there may have slowed him down a little bit, but his drive looks pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. The turn, pretty good. Runs in a little bit wider than we sometimes see, but he's kept the speed up.
He's definitely got forward momentum, which is critical. You know, even if the boat is kind of coming down off the foil, it's all about kind of softening that blow. So if he's riding at a good height, the bounce is not going to be too bad. His steering is really aggressive through here, so he's definitely taking the tight line, but you do run the risk of hitting those smart marks, but he's looking pretty clean right now.
Yeah, that's a reasonably good first sector. It's interesting what you say about the way he steers. I can actually see that. He turns the wheel quite a lot harder. You can see his complete crossed fingers there effectively, isn't he?
Yeah, so as he's coming through the corner, you'll see like a very snappy steering with a very, very sharp kind of steering angle there, and that's what I was talking about with that sharp line, whereas, you know, oh, that was really tight. Danny Kloss, I think, holds the record for most smart marks smashed, and I think he's doing okay right now, but you never know. But that tight line is definitely the fast one around the track if you can make it work with the conditions, and Danny seems to be doing that right now.
And he's into the final section, this important absolute speed section now, heading towards the line.
It's looking very good if you can keep it flying like this.
It is going to be another good lap. It's going to be under 1:20, I think. Let's have a look. Yes.
Beautiful.
1:18.49. That's really, really impressive. That's a great start. They were fourth fastest in that last group combined, but that is a decent pace to set, and I think that's going to be tough for everyone to beat.
They definitely took the advantage of getting to go out first in the clean water. I'm curious to see if we'll see a lap like that for the rest of the session, or if that was kind of the magic of the first lap. But overall, Dani looked smooth all the way throughout. Good charge, good boost application, very sharp steering. I think that was a beauty lap.
Yeah, that was very, very impressive. So well done to Dani Kloss. And he says he's a cheerful chap. Well, he did a really good job on that and was impressive. We'll see. Of course, they won at Jeddah at the beginning of this year. They were 5th at Lake Como. They are currently 3rd in the points. So getting a good qualifying here this weekend means they will be real continuing contenders for Champions of the Water. Right, okay, let's see what happens now that Monaco gets underway. We're on board with Oban Duncan.
See, Oban's definitely looking down quite a bit. She's probably examining her settings as she's trying to keep the boat flying steadily here. She's getting into a little bit of water, but she's keeping the momentum moving forward. Definitely took that turn quite a bit wider than some of the others, but she's keeping it nice and steady here. Good ride height, good angle. We'll see how she looks coming into this section here. Let's kind of look at her steering here, if she's going to take the wide sweeping option or if she's going to go for the sharp option. She went out a little bit further than some of the other pilots, but yeah, she's not too far out there that she's losing the time, so hopefully that's a good strategy for her.
She's lost a bit of first sector time, about 2.5 seconds slower than we've just seen from Dani Kloss, so that is quite a big gap. And as you say, she was definitely going a bit wider. She wasn't taking the risk, but when you're setting times, you kind of need to take that risk to getting very, very close indeed to the smart mark, don't you?
Absolutely. The risk that we saw with Dani's sharp lap was that every single time he came into a corner, it looked like he might hit the smart mark.
Yeah.
And that's the danger when you get into the rough water, is that a wave may push you into that marker, and that could end your race. So taking a slightly wider lap is smart because you're staying off the marker. You can keep the speed up. You don't run the risk of hitting it, but it is more real estate. So if you stray a little bit too far from the path, then you are going to go a lot slower.
This is not going to be as quick a lap, but let's just see what Oban Duncan can do. Where does she come in? Well, the last sector was good. That was actually a better last sector, funnily enough, than Dani had done. So, although the overall lap time of 1:20.5, her final sector had worked really well.
Compared to Dani, she really took that last corner quite a bit smoother. You know, Dani was really punching I almost said jet ski, punching the Racebird into the corners, and that made a much sharper corner, but it did also slow the boat down a little bit because it's getting quite a bit wetter. So Oban took the smoother route, and I think it paid off in Sector 3.
Yeah, it really did. That was impressive what she did in Sector 3. They will get a second lap, of course, in a while, but we will see Team Brady and Team Drogba put into their first attempts initially to see where they move up the order. As we know, of course, Team Rafa, very unlikely to be able to go through to the next stage. It's only really if one of these teams, for example, doesn't get to do the laps, then potentially, I suppose you could say they won't get to the end. But Rafa basically were the slowest. It's the 4th fastest in each of these groups that will not go through to the next stage. Right, on board, or not quite on board, but with Team Brady, with Sam Coleman, this incredibly successful team that always delivers so strongly. You're riding on board now.
I'm curious to see if Sam also struggles. We heard from Emma Kimiläinen earlier, and she sounded like she was struggling with the boat in the straights, which it didn't seem like Sam was having that issue, but I'm curious to see if he does have that issue in his runs. But he looked very smooth earlier, very fast, so we'll see if they had a time to regroup. Brady has definitely got a record of going back to the drawing board and cleaning things up and coming out swinging, so if anybody can recover from the issues that they had with Emma earlier, it's definitely Team Brady.
It's looking quite good at the moment. That first sector is right up there with the fastest. It's not quite the fastest, but it's very close to the fastest. So this is a good first sector. Apparently, Oban's been on the radio saying it was pretty bumpy out there, but she's still got that final sector done well. And how bumpy is it looking on board right now, do you think?
You can see Sam's nose kind of dropping down into the water a little bit, so I think those rollers are definitely in play here, but I think it comes down to the line choice. Like we saw with Dani when he came around this corner, the boat seemed a little bit violent as he was trying to corner sharply, whereas Sam is taking a little bit of a wider line and it looks quite smooth. So if he can get a good run right here and keep the boat stable through those big rollers, I think he's got a good shot.
Yeah, this will be interesting because second sector wasn't quite so strong, but we shall see how this comes together. across the line. Oh, that's impressive. 117.1 has gone fastest of all. So a really good final sector.
Absolutely. That was pretty consistent with what he had earlier. So I think Sam's got the settings figured out. So I think with Emma, it's just a matter of helping her figure out those settings, and then also her just getting a clean lap, you know, dealing with the conditions. So I think Team Brady is definitely one of the ones to beat. The boat seems really well balanced, even in these conditions. They've got some kind of unique settings going on. It looks like the nose may be riding a little bit higher than some of the others, and it looks like it's working for them. So I'm curious to see what Sam can come up with in his next lap, but it's looking really good for them.
Team Brady's always the team to to watch out for. They've had 5 wins in E1 over the years, and they've had the 2 championships. Let's see.
It's tough because, you know, when you're one of the pilots, you know, it's very difficult when you see a team that's consistently winning, and you want to hate these guys, but they're 2 of the nicest people in the paddock, so you really can't hate them. But they're definitely one of the most competitive, tight teams on the grid. So my props to them. You know, they really have their program dialed.
Now, let's see how Tara Pacheco gets on. Drogba set the outright fastest time, combining her time with Michael Wilkinson's time. They set the fastest, but it was Michael who put in a remarkable lap earlier.
So it's really interesting when you deal with the co-pilot situation, because when you do have a fast counterpart, you have all of their data and all of their information. So if you go back to the team and you can absorb all of that information, you should be able to put out the fastest lap as well. I was very fortunate previously to have a fast counterpart, and I would take all that data and go out and try and lay out a similar lap. So at this point, it's about Tara taking that information and trying to implement it herself, but it can be difficult when you're dealing with conditions like this. Absolutely.
Well, she's competed many times at the Olympics in a slightly different form of competition, but Tara Pacheco, in her first season of E1, and in fact Lake Como was her first event. Let's see how this is coming together for her. The first sector, not the best, and yeah, it is a fraction slower than anybody else's so far. So there is a little bit of a risk here, because of course, if you end up slowest, you won't be able to pass it on.
It really looked like she was riding quite low on the foil, and you could see just all the water coming up over the boat. That's all drag. That's all slowing her down. So I think she lost a lot of time in that first corner, just kind of dragging the boat around the corner, and then she did it again in this second corner here. Her straightaways look very nice. The boat's very balanced. It looks fast. So I think at this point, it's just a matter of her getting to grips with the settings, and she is one of the newer pilots on the grid right now. So, you know, it may just take a little time for her to sort it out.
And the timing's just gone wrong, unfortunately. We just lost the timing there very briefly. So we can't actually tell you what she's done, but I think that is probably the slowest lap. They probably will get a confirmation of it in a moment, but the main timing system obviously had stopped for some reason. She's not looking particularly happy about how it went, but we didn't get to see we didn't actually get to see sector 2 time either. It was that slightly slow sector 1. Whether she managed to get it back together or not, we've got a red flag as well out there, so there is going to be a delay as to what happens next. But hopefully, if they weren't able to get her time at all, I wonder if she will be able to do another opportunity, another lap almost.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it'll be up to the race director. You know, if the red flag is coming out, then I'm imagining something's going on where they're hopefully going to let her redo that lap if they didn't record it. So we'll wait and see here. You know, typically the red flag comes out because there's a safety concern with the track, if we have a leisure boat, if we have a smart mark that's gone awry. So we'll wait and see what's happening. But right now, the boats are all going to return safely to the milling area, and we'll wait and see what's going on.
Yeah, they're all fine. It's just a technical issue that they're having to put the red flag out for. So there's none of the boats are in trouble, but they need to sort out a technical problem at this stage. So that's where we're going to have a little bit of a delay. But no doubt that it's been impressive from Sam Coleman for Team Brady. There you are, looking at Team Brady, the very distinctive livery of Team Brady. And that was a superb performance to set that time of a 117.1. It's not the ultimate fastest time we've seen today during different sessions, but it's crucial right now.
You know, people at home may not know this, but Sam Coleman was actually very heavily involved in the testing and the R&D involved with the original Racebird. So when it comes to dealing with different conditions and kind of getting a feel for the Racebird, Sam Coleman probably has some of the best intuition when it comes to dealing with the Racebird. And shockingly enough, he's not always the fastest pilot on the grid despite that, but when it comes to, you know, unique conditions and situations, Sam really seems to be able to navigate his way out of it, and then a lot of times that information can trickle back to the rest of the team. So, you know, Sam Coleman, not shocked that he's doing well in these conditions here today. I'm not shocked that Team Brady's doing well in these conditions here today, but what I am shocked to see is that Emma Kemiläinen was not doing as well earlier. But safe to say, I think Sam will take some of that information back to Emma, and they could have a very different day tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah. And at the moment, they're just waiting to find out what is going to be happening with the red flag out there at this stage. They will be informed, of course, at some point as to what is happening, and we will then go into the next stages. We will be aiming to get down to a final session a little bit later on, where we have the 4 fastest all combining to see whether we will be able to get points for the fastest of all, 3 points. And of course it also gives them, in theory, the best starting position, the inside starting position for the first of the races tomorrow. Mind you, once you get into the races, how you finish each race, that then decides how you start the next race. So although qualifying is an important day, it can all change with the order tomorrow.
Especially for those teams that are unfortunately going to get knocked out early on in qualifying, it's all about how you regroup for tomorrow. So, you know, it may be tough to not do as well as you wanted on qualifying day, but every time you get in the boat, the meter resets. You have a new opportunity to try your best, to try and scrounge up points, to scrounge up a win, to get valuable data and information. So I like to look at quali. Regardless of how you finish, it's a day to gather necessary data to have a good day on race day on Saturday, and that's when things really matter, when there's a lot of points at stake. So to those teams that are struggling right now, I know they're already looking at their data and their information and trying to develop a strategy for tomorrow. So it's critical that the pilots don't get too far in their heads and are ready to reset for tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah, no, quite right. The question here is, because Drogba has been shown as no time at the moment, because the time definitely wasn't coming up, but she didn't make a mistake. It wasn't, we didn't see any errors from her. She was doing the lap, but for some reason the times failed, and that is obviously being analysed, looked into. So we may possibly see her go again, because she has to have the opportunity to establish a time. And then that could change the order, because at the moment, of course, you've got Rafa down in that team at risk position of 7th, and Drogba, because they haven't done a time, down there. But that's not fair, because she hasn't done anything wrong yet.
The good news with the red flag is that the time for the session is effectively stopped. So once they get things sorted out, there's still time. You know, more than likely, if there was an issue with the timing where she didn't get a time, they'll more than likely let her run again. So I think there's still a chance for them. It looks like they may have just updated with the time.
Ah, right. Okay. Yes, you're right. So they have updated, so they were able to find the time, and as we thought, it wasn't a particularly quick lap, because the first sector had been quite steady. Second and third, actually, she lost time on those as well. So at the moment, unfortunately, Drogba is 4th and last in this group.
As expected, you know, when we looked at her lap, she was really dragging through the corners, and that's really reflected in the segments there in segment 1 and segment 3, whereas segment 2 was kind of that transitional corner where you're not really getting the boat as wet. So it looked like she had a better sector 2. So if she can clean up those corners where she's getting the boat out of the water a little bit more, that should help shave time off quite a bit.
But she may not get another chance today, unfortunately, because they have been able to confirm the time. But we'll have to just wait and see. What do they decide to do? If it stays like this, of course, then we've lost Rafa and Drogba to the next stage, which, of course, is a great shame, because Drogba had great pace, combining the two pilots' performances from earlier. They had the fastest of everybody at a 1:19.3 as a combination of their fastest times. She's obviously having a chat with the team about what are they doing, what's going to happen next. But we're still under the red flag period at the moment, and whether there's going to be any more running, whether there had been any other issues that race control decides they have to go again, we just don't know. That's why they're all sitting out there, presumably, because they're just waiting for instructions as to what they do next.
There's also a chance, you know, if Drogba feels that there was some kind of issue with the timing, if they feel that it wasn't fair or it should be redone, they can also protest as well. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what's happening here. But, you know, as it stands right now, I don't think it's looking very good for Drogba. You know, even if they threw that lap away, you know, she would really have to clean up her lap to make a comeback from that time.
It's quite fun seeing other people coming in a different way. But they're allowed to at this point, presumably, because it's red flag. They've been told, yes, you can come in now.
The good news is that those leisure boats shouldn't be stirring up the track too much for our pilots.
I don't think they'll be making too much difference, no. But you can even see with them that they're bouncing around quite a lot. So it just gives you an idea. So let's just see what's Team Brady is Team Brady getting ready for its second lap now? Because, in fact, no, they won't go first. We are waiting for all of them to do a second flying lap. That's basically what we're waiting for here, because once the session gets back underway, and now we have a time for Drogba, it does look as though we will just hopefully get them all back out for their second flying lap, and then that will decide which of the two teams that will not then be going into the next stage of this. So just remember, Team Brady, fastest by 1.3 seconds at this point from Aoki in second place, and then Monaco in this group. So you look at the overall standings, yes, Westbrook are third, but I'm looking at just for this group, we've got 4. You can see all 4 there on screen. And so Monaco are currently third, which is safe, but only just. And then Drogba are the team that are, in theory, going to be kicked out. But we've got this second lap coming up, but only when the red flag is released.
If they get an opportunity to do the second lap, I also wouldn't count Danny Close out for potentially being competitive with the lap that Sam Coleman's put out. You know, speaking to Team Aoki, consistently they kind of struggle a little bit towards the beginning of the weekend, and then they go back to the drawing board, and they're one of the teams that has a very powerboat focused team. So they actually, one of the managers of the team is a female powerboat Formula One racer who not only has a massive winning streak, but she actually was involved in coaching all of the pilots in driving the Racebird. And I think if she ever got in a Racebird, I think we would hate to see that day, because she would probably be one of the fastest. But the advantage of that is with so many powerboat people kind of at the helm here, when you go back to the drawing board, there's a lot of data and information that you can kind of work with. And some of these pilots have their engineers and their teams actually in their ear helping them actively with the settings on the track. So that gives Aoki the opportunity to regroup. It looks like Drogba is taking a second stab at it, so we'll see if that previous lap gets cleared. If it does, that's going to be good for Drogba.
Absolutely, yes. So Drogba en route now. So yes, I think this is interesting to see them go now, because normally it would be back to the other order, but because it was red flagged when she was out there, she's now going back out for another opportunity, presumably, and we shall see how this goes. Riding on board, getting that first turn and trying not to catch in too tight, but that's, she's left a bit of space there.
Definitely a better line than she took earlier. I think what's going to be key is as she comes around these red smart marks, how wet she gets the hole.
Yeah, and of course, when you've been sitting around for a little while, you don't know how the sea is going to feel.
This is much better than she did earlier.
Okay, good. That is a better, it's definitely a better first sector. It's in the margin of what Monaco have done as well in that first sector. It's not the fastest, but it's definitely up there competing. So now into this second sector, she's really got to just find that little bit more pace.
She took that transitional corner a little bit wide, and so now she's kind of driving directly to this left, which is kind of going to throw the line off here. You can see she's already kind of upsetting the boat a little bit, but she is avoiding the drag, which is an improvement from where she was earlier.
So into the final sector now. That middle sector has worked quite well in terms of time. This is going to be a bit more competitive, but what she really needs this final sector to be super special to move up in the order. Let's just see what it is as she comes over the line, and just across the line now, and it is an improvement. It's a 1:21.8, but sadly it's still not quite enough.
My hunch is that maybe there was an issue with the timing, and if I was Team Drogba, I would have been on the horn saying, no, we need another lap. If there was even the slightest issue with the timing, we want a fresh lap. And so that may have just saved them from being eliminated if they did have to go to bat for the right to redo that lap. So if that's the case, then good on the team, because it gave Tara a second chance.
Absolutely, and it has put them up into that 6th place, which is looking like a safer place at the moment. 7th and 8th. It means, in fact, that Team Blue Rising have been pushed down to 7th place with Rafa. So that is interesting as well.
It would be a bit of a shakeup if we see Team Blue Rising fall off here. I know Michelle really struggled, and then John found all the big potholes on the track, I think, in his last lap, just struggling with leisure boats and big boats coming in. But Aoki's about to take to the track for their second lap, and if they regrouped like I think they did, I think there's potential for Danny to close up this gap.
Right, okay, well, let's see how we go then as Aoki get back underway once again with Danny, and having done that at 118.4 earlier on. There's every opportunity to get even faster on this one. But this is where you're now into this first sector. And oh, what does that tell us? Bit of a spray, but it's more the camera position, I think, because you're always going to get spray there.
Definitely taking a tighter line. You could see it from his wake trail after the boat as well, that he's taking a really tight line around these smart marks here. So he does run the risk of damaging the foil, but it is the fastest way around the track to take the least amount of real estate. So we'll see what he can come up with. It worked for him well in the last lap that he did, so we'll see how it works.
Okay, yeah, that's a reasonably good first sector. Not the best ultimately, but still pretty effective. So into sector 2, and Danny Kloss is still putting it together at this stage, and we are going to see if Aoki continuing this remarkable performance that they've had at this place.
Very smooth in sector 2, and that's reflected as one of the fastest sectors. But this is right where I've been talking about, just getting the boat a little bit too wet through this last corner really slows you down. But Danny did pull the boat out of it pretty quickly, so hopefully he has a good run to the finish line here. If he keeps it smooth and stable, not too wet, I think that he's going to be looking pretty good.
Yeah, he's looking as though it may not be faster than Sam Coleman, but it's going to be quite close, I think. Let's just see as he comes to 118.7. So, yeah, that is still impressive, but it's not the fastest of all, but it's nice and close. So it's very safely through to the next stage, and they're showing a consistency of pace around here at this point, just like they did last year.
The consistency is key in E1. You know, having a consistent lap time is really critical. And I think that, you know, if Danny maybe had eased off of his aggression on the steering a little bit, it may have helped clean it up a little bit, just because it was upsetting the boat quite a bit. But I understand the strategy. You know, going for that really tight, aggressive line is the shortcut. And if you can make that work with, like we saw Micah do earlier, I think that it can really shave down the time. But I think with Danny, it was just cutting it a little bit too close.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's still a great job, and we shall see how that develops. We've still got a few others to get their second laps on, and this is Owen Duncan now with Team Monaco, and with the combined time that she did earlier on, with her teammate there, you could just saw Max Nosher, they together have done a 1:19.8. So let's see what she can do on this time. She is rapid though, she did a good lap earlier. How smooth she's looking there.
And she took that one quite nice, you know, coming just far enough that she didn't have to like put the nose of the boat in the water too much, so it kept the boat up and kept the boat fast. So really good line there. If she can maintain not getting the boat too wet around this next corner, she's going to maintain that speed and have a pretty good sector.
So this new team in E1 this year into its third event, and Owen Duncan also getting herself fully wrapped up in E1, although she started younger when she started in 2024 with it all, and she is developing great techniques. Those sector times are looking okay. First sector, not the best. She really needs to find a bit more pace, but they're still in a reasonably good position.
She's a good approach coming in here, but it does look like the rollers are kind of pushing the boat around a little bit, probably in places that she doesn't want. Taking a wider line around this last corner and straightening it out to have a good drive towards the finish line. So if she can get this thing flying pretty steady, it might help shave off some of the time that she lost on other places on the track. Yeah, you can see the rollers as she's coming across the backside of them, and if you can see them from this camera angle, they're probably pretty big in the race bird.
Well, I think she's losing out a bit on this lap. There's no doubt it hasn't come together quite so well, but the lap that she'd done earlier, I think has served her well. So that one is definitely a bit slower, a 125.7, but that compares to the 120.5 she did earlier on, and that has put her into, say, fourth position at this stage. And bear in mind that the two down at that bottom sector, 7th and 8th at the moment, Team Blue Rising and Team Rafa, they were out in the earlier session, so there's very little opportunity unless somebody makes a mistake on their second lap. They've got very little chance of being able to make it through.
I think at this point, with most of the boats already taking their second lap, I think it might just be, it is what it is, unfortunately, for the teams that are in 7th and 8th. But I am curious to see what Sam Coleman has left in the tank. He's had a really good run. Based on Olvin's run, I think the water has gotten a little bit more aggressive. We've seen some big rollers out there, so I'm curious to see how Sam handles that. If he stays consistent, then I think the other teams are going to have a problem on their hands tomorrow.
Well, it's a lovely view of Sam at control here, and the foil lifting it up, but not to the highest level, as you said. When you're on a slightly bumpy surface like this, you don't want to go to the very highest level, do you?
It's tricky in these conditions because you want the boat to be high enough that you don't have too much drag, but you don't want it to be so low that the boat is kissing the water. So Sam really seems to have it in the right place. And like I said, you know, when the boat's running in the straight, you can kind of see that the nose is up a little bit, and especially on their corner exit. So I think there may be some magic in that, just trying to keep the boat from getting too wet. Sam just dips the wing in just lightly and then brings it back out. And some of that may also have to do with his boost use as well. You know, if the boat gets into the water a little bit too much in the corner, a quick tap of the boost will kind of help pull the boat back up out of the water quickly. So between the boost strategy and the settings that they have on the ride height, Sam really seems to have it figured out.
Yeah, he does. And there's no point in taking major risks here because they're in such a good position already from the earlier lap. Let's just see. I don't know, this is a reasonable middle sector, but I don't think this is going to be particularly faster than the last. Whoa. Again, another view of him going through the final left-hand section. And he now picks up the speed and gets that floating, hopefully not bouncing down too much, just keeping it up in the air with the foil, reducing the drag, that little bit of bounce, slowing it down. It's still going to be a good lap. It may not be the fastest. No, it's not going to be the fastest because it's over 1 minute 20. It's a 1:22.5. But as you said, it may be that the whole level has become a little bit more bumpy out there, and it's becoming a bit harder to set the pace they did earlier.
Absolutely. I think also that once you set that fastest lap, like you said, there's no need to risk it. So I think Sam's probably evaluating his settings, taking some information back to Emma as they kind of proceed through the quali day. But, you know, the boats that are doing really well here today are super balanced. You know, I'm not sure if that's just the settings that they're running or if they've experimented with some of the ballast weight options that they have as well. But Team Brady, super smooth, looking very good.
Absolutely. Now, are we all done, or will we see Tara Pacheco out? No, it is done, isn't it? So I just wondered, because she had done 2 laps. Well, oh no, they're going now, aren't they? So they do get, okay, so because she hadn't, although she'd done 2 laps, officially on the scoreboard, effectively, she'd only done 1 lap, so it does look like she's going again.
I'm curious to see if they'll allow this one to count or if it'll be similar to the Sierra situation earlier, because she is starting after the finish of the session. So,
but she is safe anyway, isn't she? Because no one's going to beat her.
We are hearing that it will count. So
yeah.
Probably because of the timing issue earlier, they're having a little bit of a grace period here for her, which is wonderful because they can still have another lap to experiment. But like Ben was saying earlier, the good news is they look like they're safe. TBR and Rafa were in the previous session, so they don't have the opportunity to fight back. So looks like right now Tara's taking another lap to practice the settings, and they should be good for the next round.
Yeah, and that's quite a decent first sector actually, 28.6. That's a mix amongst everybody else in sector 1. So it's definitely a better lap than she had done before. So she did a 1:21.8 in that previous lap that got timed. So now you can see the boat, yeah, looking good out there at this stage. So hopefully she's just building a little bit more confidence. And having the opportunity to do another lap just teaches you more all the time.
You know, Tara's at a bit of a disadvantage because a lot of the other teams have 2 pilots that have been in for multiple seasons, and this is Tara's first season and it's Micah's second season. So she has a lot of room to learn, and she doesn't have the time and opportunity to have that seat time. So, you know, what she can learn from Micah is what she can learn. This lap's looking better than her other ones.
Oh, just
Much
a bit
better.
Faster, yeah. So that was a bit faster than a previous one.
Yeah. And a blessing to them as well, because they did let that count, so that did move them up ahead of Miami as well.
Yeah, so that puts them into 5th place overall, as you say. It was a fraction faster than her previous lap, so well done. And of course, they'll be swapping from one to the other for each of the next sessions that they'll be going into. So we'll have the top 6 competing in the next session, and then it will come down to the top 4 that will actually be battling for the points in qualifying. So that will still be a demand, because it'll be her co-pilot who will do the next session, which could well get them through into the top 4, and then she will have to do the final.
Things are definitely getting a lot more intense. We've seen as pilots get knocked out, the times are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So I think it's going to come down to fractions of a second.
Well, we've got a chance to talk to Tara. Let's have a word with her. Hi Tara, this is the TV coming to you, and well done, you guys have gone through into the next stage, and it looked like a bit of a demanding session for you there with the red flags and everything.
was a little bit tricky. We had a red flag on the course. Yeah, I needed to redo my lap again. And yeah, I think it was quite okay. Still need to improve a lot of things, but trying to get the groove of the course.
Well done for getting through to the next stage, and we will be looking forward for all of the next battles as the 6 fastest from that group will go through to the next stage, and then we'll get into the top 4. Well, lots to learn. Some teams are struggling, some teams are doing a fantastic job. Lots to find out about. Let's go back to Taylor.
Well, these two are certainly having a little bit of fun down here, chatting it up. Sam, I'll talk with you first. Just got off the water. I think conditions are changing out there, are they not?
They're changing from the start of the session to the end of the session. So last lap was a bit messy. Tried a few different lines and stuff, but first lap was a lot cleaner. I was happy with that one. So,
Danny, you still found that speed out there. You're not hovering near the bottom. That's kind of where you want to be. How is it feeling in the boat?
Good. We haven't done much testing these days, so this is quite fine for us. I guess it's also like trying new stuff. And as Sam said, like the second lap, as we already got in, the second lap was to try new things and find some other stuff.
And we're heading into, this is the 3rd round of this season. Do you think the pressure is rising as we progress through?
I don't know. We're only 3 rounds into a long season, so people are still finding their feet, and we've still got 5 to go, including this one. So it's not rising yet, but there's always pressure on ourselves to perform. I'm sure Danny, same as me, like the biggest critic is yourself, and you just got to keep pushing.
Same for you.
Since race 1, there's pressure, so. No, at the end, I said it this morning, this season, everyone is quicker, everyone it's more aggressive, everyone can do something every weekend, and we never know. So, we just have to be, or try to be as consistent as possible, and we'll be always on top.
Wonderful. Thank you both for chatting with me.
Thank you.
Great to hear from them, and well, it's going well for them in the qualifying day so far. You can never tell how it's all going to go once you actually get into the racing, but it's giving you confidence that the boat is feeling that you can make it work around this layout. So, Team Brady having set the pace in this last session from Aoki in 2nd place. Westbrook, the points leaders at the moment, in 3rd. Monaco, an impressive 4th. Drogba up into 5th, but they've got more pace that we've seen at certain times. Miami made it into the top 6, but unfortunately not making it through. We've lost Team Blue Rising and Team Ruffer, who've been having a tough time in recent races.
Really disappointing for Team Rafa, who's typically one of the fastest qualifiers, but also a testament to them to make it to Q2 after struggling so much in Lake Como. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction for them after their really difficult race in Italy not too long ago. So hoping to see better from them in the future.
Absolutely, there's a good chance for them tomorrow, but let's wait and see what happens. They're currently 8th in the points, but they were 2nd in 2025. So there we go. Right, another opportunity to do a bit of catching up with Sarah Price. Let's go back down to Taylor.
Sarah Price, Westbrook Racing, is sitting in that #1 spot right now. But as we know, qualifying can shake things up a little bit. How's the pressure feeling today?
Well, the pressure is sure on me right now because Lucas just went out there and killed it, so that means I have to kill it. And as you see, the conditions have been very mediocre, and so it changes about every 5 minutes, and so that could be 1 lap from the next. And so we're just going to go out there, do the best we can, and yeah, qualifying matters, but it doesn't matter as much as it previously did. So it does get us a point if we do good, we win it. Obviously, that's the goal. But yeah, we're just going to give it our all, get some track time, hopefully get faster, and hopefully be ready for tomorrow.
And this is, I think it's your favorite race. It's definitely a lot of different people's favorite race, being out here in Croatia. Does that kind of good vibe, good feeling help you in the race, Bird?
I think for sure. Croatia is my favorite so far. By far, I think just the being here, the country, the course and the elements has been a little different. It's been very technical. It's been tough for all the racers. But yeah, I love it out here. I can't wait to just take off on a boat on Sunday, sip a cocktail. It'll be fun.
Well, thanks for chatting with me. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, lovely to hear from Sarah Price. And of course, Westbrook are still doing a great job. Westbrook leading the championship from Brady and Aoki, and they are the top 3 teams that we have seen in the pace in that last session of qualifying. There's been plenty to enjoy.
idemo nego vratimo i to. I s tim da mogu tako da smo to, kako se zove, dogovarali i ja sam da Ne. Ali sam htio danas i sa Paulom još to jedan prokomentirati, ako mogu reći, zvao sam i tu i HR i tako dalje, tako da
We are gearing up for the all-important qualifying for the round 3 of the UIM E1 World Championship presented by PIF, with all the teams and pilots working as hard as possible to get around the lap. And alongside me, someone who's raced here in the past, Anna Glennon. You can explain it.
Yes, Dubrovnik provides some of the most technical conditions because we have very big rolling waves coming in from a couple different directions here, and it has really shown in the qualifying here today. If a pilot can get in between those waves and get a good run, they have a good run, but if they get caught up in that mess, it definitely slows them down. So looking at our track here, we have one of the longest start straightaways on the right side of the track that we have seen all year, and it's very critical that the pilots are able to get a good run through there. On the far side of the track, we have a big sweeping left-hand corner where we've seen a lot of pilots struggle to keep the boat out of the water, creating a lot of drag that slows them down. Then we move into a transitional section on the track where we've seen some of the fastest sectors here if the pilots can keep the boats up and balanced. As they approach the left side of the track, this has been the trickiest section. Boats are headed into the back side of some big rollers, and that can create a lot of turbulence for these race birds. If they're able to execute a good left-hand corner there and then continue on that start straightaway with good momentum, they'll have a good lap.
So we've got the penultimate qualifying session about to get underway. This is where we have the 6 fastest so far, but when we go through this stage of doing 2 flying laps through this session, we then end up with the top 4, and we'll then go into the final part of qualifying to score the points. But let's take a look then at who's going to be doing this, and the 6 teams that we've got are Drogba with Michael Wilkinson, pilot of the wheel for that one. Team Brady, Emma Kimilainen will be doing the work this time. Miami, Rihanna O'Meara Hunt. Aoki with Sara Mizier. Westbrook with Sarah Price. And Monaco, it'll be Max Noche.
Pilots to watch in this session are going to be Miracle Michael Wilkinson, who had the fastest lap of the day earlier today. Let's see if he can make that up again later on in this session, as well as Sarah Price and Emma Kimilainen, I think, are also going to be pilots to watch. Emma struggled earlier on, but Sam proved that they have a good setup, so if Emma can take those settings and make it happen, I think she will also make up for her session earlier. And then Sarah Price, like she said, Lucas had a good session, so can she duplicate that? These pilots are sitting in their race birds right now, waiting for the session to start. Tension's high. They may be hearing from their engineers some last-minute suggestions. This time around, there's no fighting to get out in front. They will go out as the race director directs them. So we're starting kind of reverse grid right now with Miami going first.
That's right. So it will be Miami. You can see over to the left, there is Miami in the correct position. The time is ticking away, and then they will be allowed to head off and get across the line and set the first flying lap. But all of them will get a chance to do 2 flying laps. You can't do them one after the other. You do 1 lap, then pause, let the others go out, and then go back again. Right, here we go then. Rihanna O'Meara Hunt is beginning to pick up the pace as we get ready for the first of these runs, with the 6 teams competing, and only 4 teams will be going through to the next stage.
It's really critical here when they're running parallel with these big rollers that they get a good run at the start line to get that momentum going. So we'll see how her ride height looks and if she can keep that boat out of the water.
These boats capable of getting up to just under 60 miles an hour, so a little bit under 100 kilometers an hour at the high speed on the hydrofoils. Let's see whether they can keep the balance. That's what's always the challenge, but it's looking pretty smooth so far.
You could see her kind of lurching through some of those big rollers for a moment there. She kind of fell off the foil at the end of the start there, so that will slow her down a little bit, but we'll see if she can maintain the momentum around the track.
Remember, Rihanna O'Meara Hunt is not as experienced as many of the others. Her first event was at Jeddah earlier this year as a reserve, so this is her first full season, so she's still having to absorb a lot, learn a lot, but she is putting it together. She was a karting champion in Australia. She's raced in GT4 championship races with Aston Martin, so all sorts. But what's going on here?
She got a little bit twitchy coming out in between those 2 sectors, and the boat kind of unloaded and came out of the water there. So that was a pretty good slam that'll slow her down a little bit, but she still has time to make it up. We'll see how she handles this last corner here. This has been the toughest section of the track. It's hard to see, but there's some rollers that they're kind of coming into the backside of, so you'll see the boat kind of dip, sink down, and then come back up. She got the boat quite a bit wet there, but she is keeping it pretty level, so we'll see how this last charge goes.
Remember, what we've been seeing when you're really getting on the pace is getting just under 1 minute 20 seconds. If you're going over 1 minute 20, then you're definitely going to be a little bit more in the risk of dropping out. She is over 1 minute 20, just 1 minute 20.6. It's not bad. That is pretty decent. But I do expect to see some of the teams getting underneath that 1 minute 20.
I think, unfortunately, with them starting, when they didn't do well, but they got to go first, and I think that may have really helped her out here with that cleaner water. A lot of the other pilots have been complaining about struggling with the water, and she was fortunate enough to have that clean water. So that may have been to her advantage, because she definitely has been struggling with her lap times throughout the day.
That's a very good point, yeah, because once you've got boats going out one after the other, then the surface is becoming different all the time, and trying to deal with that becomes more challenging. So yeah, that's a good point. Let's hope that 1 minute 20.6 gives them, Rihanna Amira Hunt, a good opportunity to get into the top 4, but we won't know until they've done their second runs as well. So now we're getting ready for Monaco to come out. That's interesting, because I had wondered whether it would be Droppa, but actually Droppa has been moved up the order a little bit. So it's Monaco that's going next, and it's Max Noche who's going to be coming out with the Monaco entry. Owen Duncan did a good job earlier on, but they're both combined, and it's now up to Max to see whether he can deliver the sort of performance. The 31-year-old Frenchman, who is always determined, but in his first season this year, so still plenty to learn as well.
Something we haven't talked about yet is how we're coming into the Monaco event. So I'm sure Team Monaco is feeling a little bit of pressure to try and kind of pull themselves up ahead of that Monaco event. That's going to be the home race for them. So, you know, they had a little trouble at the beginning of the year here as they got the team pulled together at the beginning of the season, but they've definitely had some flashes of greatness. So I think they have it in them to win a GP here, but we'll see what happens. They've kind of been hit or miss in qualifying today. We've seen some fast laps and we've seen some slow laps, so that may be a result of the conditions.
Yeah, that qualifying of third that they had at Lake Como was impressive. They finished 6th overall on that weekend. It was more difficult for them at the first event in Jeddah, but as you say, they are learning. I think they are getting better and better, which is important for effectively a new team. And let's have a look at this. So that first sector, fraction slower than Rihanna Amira Hunt had done, but it is only a tiny difference. So he's doing a very similar lap at this stage, Max. And although actually the second is a tiny bit faster, it is the fastest of the two, but I tell you, it's only a few tenths of a second really. So it's going to be a very similar time, I think.
As far as I can tell, based on the dynamic of the race birds right now, the conditions look a little bit smoother than they were when Sam Coleman and the other group were out earlier. So that may be why we're seeing some faster times from some of these pilots.
So is it going to be under 120 or just over across the line? It's over. Oh, and he's lost a bit actually on that last section, yeah, because the final section's losing out, has gone to 123.1. So did not get the final section quite as well done as Rihanna Amira Hunt. She did it in 26.3 seconds, that last sector. He did it in 28.5. So definitely cost him a bit there. They've got to learn. They've got another opportunity to do a second flying lap in a little while once everybody else has set their pace.
I think Team Monaco made a good move when they established the team by sneaking Oben away from some of the other teams, because she has a lot of experience not only in E1 racebird piloting but also in other powerboat racing. So I think it was smart to kind of help them establish their foundation with someone that has a lot of experience.
Okay, so let's have a look and see how Westbrook get on. Now, this is the team that is leading the series at the moment on 60 points. It's got this very, very close battle in the championship. The three teams, Westbrook, Brady and Aoki, and they're all in this group, and it's very possible we could get those three teams into the top 4 shootout for fastest qualifying as we ride on board with Westbrook right now.
I think things are going to be very tight in this round as all three of those teams are qualifying well, and I think anything can happen. So I think we should see a good battle on race day. We've got Sarah making her approach to the first corner right now. She is on the boost and then backed off of it a little bit as she's coming into this corner, most likely to help make sure she doesn't overshoot that corner.
Yeah, it's bouncing around a little bit, but she is carrying some good pace by the look of it. Let's see how this goes for her. That first sector, you want to be under, well, around 29 seconds. That's what we've seen from both of them so far. It's going to be similar. I think
Carrying
it's
a
quicker.
lot of speed through that corner compared to some of the other teams. You'll notice that she took a wider line, but wasn't so far off the buoy, but she kept the boat very stable, didn't dip it in the water, and that's probably where that extra time came from, or where that less amount of time came from in that sector. She took it really well.
Yeah, she did take it well. So let's see if she can continue this on the remaining part. And they got into the second sector now, and then into this long, sort of almost triple left that you have to come all the way around to go back onto the final straight. There was a little clash there. I don't think she hit anything.
She dragged the boat a little bit through the water there, but she kind of bounced back out of it. So coming out of that last corner, she's got a great drive. Time's looking good. Let's see where she lands.
I think she's on target to beat the time that Miami have set so far, and she could well be the first in this session to get under 1 minute 20 seconds. Is she going to do that? Yes,
beautiful.
Quite clearly. 1:17.65. Yeah, big smile on her face, and well done to Sarah Price. She's done it well there. Still some other quick ones to come out though.
Yeah, I'm sure the team's really excited about that. And to be honest, she kind of not messed it up, but she got the boat a little bit too wet in that last corner. Had she not done that, we may have even seen another second come out of her. So nice work, Sarah. She's still got another lap to go. Maybe she'll clean it up.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. Now, we've still got some great battles and some really interesting ones to watch. And coming out in just a moment, it will be Drogba with Micah Wilkinson, who set a remarkable time.
Miracle Micah.
Yeah.
Miracle lap
Miracle
Micah.
Micah, yeah. He did a miracle lap earlier. Whether he's going to be able to do it again or not, we'll have to wait and see. And remember, whoever you are doing this session, you will swap back over to your pilot, your co-pilot, for the final session if you do make it into the top four. But we shall wait and see. But yeah, it's looking as though it's going to be an interesting time, this one, for Drogba. They've had a tough season so far. They are last at the moment in the points. But there's a real opportunity, looking at the pace they've got here this weekend, to actually score some points and move up the order.
I do believe conditions are a little bit rougher than they are now from Micah earlier. So if he runs a similar line and kind of runs it on the ragged edge like he did, he may even have room to get more out of it. But if he can at least get close to that speed that he had earlier, the other teams are going to have a really hard time beating that.
He's never actually had a victory. He's had podiums, but let's just see how this qualifying goes for him today to build up to the racing tomorrow's when it really counts. But you can score some points today, and that would be useful for Drogba if possible. As I say, they are down at the bottom, but if they were to take pole position today, they would actually go up one place in theory, from 10th to 9th, but it would depend on Miami, and they're still in the game as well.
He carried a lot of speed coming into that corner, but as he got into it, the wing got a little bit too wet, and it seemed to slow him down, but he can still make it up at the end of this here. This sector, especially, if he carries a lot of speed through this middle sector, he can make up for it, and he really seemed to nail the last sector that everyone was struggling with. So, you know, he does have this lap and another one, but hopefully Micah can pull it out of the bag. Look at that. Good sector two.
Yeah, that's a really good sector two, as you say. First sector was okay, but that second sector is the fastest we've seen of anybody by about 7/10 of a second. Actually, a little less, actually, only a couple of tenths faster than Sarah Price. Let's see, though. This is a good chance to go quicker. 1:17.6 is the time to beat. Can he go a little bit quicker than 1:17.6 he did earlier today? Oh, 1:16.9. Very impressive.
Close. Yeah, I think if he had cleaned up that first sector, we would have seen the same speed. So I don't know that it was a miracle. I think he's got the consistency. So that was really good from Micah. He looks very happy. He was really dancing all over the settings, kind of pushing the boat on the edge, and looked really good. So if he can clean up that first sector in his next lap, we may see a faster time from him. But Drogba's really got that boat balanced, and you can tell when he hits that second sector.
Definitely. No, it's delightful to see him really delivering well here this weekend so far. He obviously thoroughly enjoys this Dubrovnik venue. It's proving to be a good one for him, and whether they can also keep it going into race day. Of course, you can never predict, because the day can be different, the weather can be different, the temperatures can be different, can change the way you want to run the boat, but they are looking very competitive at this stage. Right, Aoki Sara Mizia is now out. One of the main challengers in the championship battles right at this early stage of the season, and with great success here in the past. They were the winners here last year, well, the team was the winner here last year. Let's see how she gets on now.
on her approach, she's already quite a bit lower on the foil than Danny was, so she's dragging the boat quite a bit more, but she still has room to improve the sector with this corner here. So we'll see what she can come up with. I'm curious to see if she's going to carry the settings over from Danny and be on pace with him, or if she's going to be a little faster or slower, so we'll see.
She did have a win last year, but she was with Blue Rising last year, so she didn't take the win here that this team made. But nonetheless, she has shown great competitiveness already this year. They've had some great performances, of course. Last time out, they were very impressive at Lake Como, as they finished in 5th in the end. It wasn't quite as strong as the first race at Jeddah, where they won outright. But this is looking pretty good.
She went quite a bit wider on the first sector, and you can see that reflected in her time, but she's still carrying the momentum through here, so, you know, she still has room to maybe take it, but I think the wider line may be hurting her here.
Yeah, it's going to be close. She's going to do a reasonable job. May well go ahead of Monaco. Is she going to beat Miami? Let's have a little look here. Are we going to get below the 1:20? Possibly. She could go up.
You can see the boat's hunting really hard, and that's when the boat kind of wobbles back and forth as it's catching those waves, but she did run a pretty good time there.
Yeah, that's good. Into 3rd place is exactly what you want, really, because if you can be top 4, then you're safe to go through to the final stage of qualifying and that opportunity to score some points. Teams at risk now then after that first run at the moment. Well, of course, it's Monaco, which have done a time, but we're also waiting to see Team Brady come out for their first run. Emma Kymäläinen will give us an idea of just how rapid they can be, and we know that they can be very rapid. And of course, there is a chance then that Miami might be pushed down into that bottom group, but we've just got to wait and see how this goes for this run, and then everybody gets one more lap again.
Now it's time to see if Team Brady was able to rally around Emma and lift her back up to where she normally is. We saw Sam, he's very competitive, so the boat's there, the strategy's there, the settings are there. Now it's Emma's time.
Okay, well, let's see how this runs for Team Brady. They've had a 2nd place at Jeddah earlier this year, the 3rd place at Lake Como. So they haven't had one of their many wins that they've had in the past, of course. They've had 5 victories in the past. But let's see how this qualifying session goes now for Emma Kymäläinen, who is, as you mentioned earlier, a rapid qualifier at times. She really puts it together extremely well.
She's already off to a better start here. Earlier we saw her have a near miss with that smart mark, really slowed her down, so she's already off to a better start. She's changed her line slightly. The boat doesn't seem to be rocking too much, so she's off to a good start.
So let's see how this goes with the first part of the lap to be completed. She wants to try and do this in around 27, 28 seconds as she comes around this first section of the lap, and just a 28.4 she's done. So yeah, that's in the mix. It's in the mix. It's not the fastest, but it's definitely in the game.
It looks like she might have changed her boost strategy slightly, kind of peppering the boost throughout the corner there. So like I said earlier, that's going to help pull the boat out of the water if she gets it too wet. But she's already kind of improved that by taking a slightly wider line. But she wasn't as wide as some of the other pilots earlier. So looking good right now, but the drive to the finish is going to be critical.
You're absolutely right, because she's in the mix, as you say, with the others doing a similar job. But this last section is always absolutely crucial, isn't it?
So right here, we'll see she's got it just barely above the water. She's running a little bit high right now, but yeah, if she can hold it, it'll pay off.
It didn't quite hold it. She bounced down there, but it's good.
Great time from Emma Kymäläinen.
Oh, that final sector was brilliant.
Emma's back, guys.
1:16.8.
Remember the procedure.
That is fantastic. What a great job again by Emma Kymäläinen.
She had a great time despite the fact that the boat seemed a little bit unstable at times. She had at least one bobble that was pretty big. So, you know, if she can clean that up, she can go even faster. So Brady's back and everybody needs to watch out.
Yeah, absolutely. And Emma is a great single-seater racer in Formula Ford, a Formula Ford champion in her years. W Series, she raced very competitively between 2019 and 2023, but she's also been superb on a boat for quite a while now, and that was a good qualifying session.
Emma's an extreme threat in the E1 Series because not only is she a good qualifier, but she's also a little bit of a bully on the racetrack when there's other boats out there. She will not lift, she will push you around, and she will get to the front. So Emma's one of the toughest competitors on the track, but she is also one of the nicest people in the paddock, so you got to watch out.
Right, we're seeing Miami go for the second lap, and this is absolutely crucial for O'Meara Hunt because she has dropped down into that slightly slower section. So Rihanna has to go quicker in this section now to get into the top 4.
So now that the session's kind of progressed, the water's a little bit more churned up, so it'll be interesting to see if Rihanna's able to maintain the lap time that she had earlier, or if she slows down. We'll be able to tell if that smooth water was a contributing factor.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what's going to be able to tell us here.
A lot of drag there. You can see it just coming off the bottom of the boat. That's going to slow it down substantially.
Okay, well, let's see. She's got her time that she has set so far is a 1:20.6. So can she put it together in this one? Her first sector's not really quite fast enough, I don't think, to be able to put her into the challenge as much as she would like. So there is still more to be found. She's some 3.8 seconds away from the fastest.
She is on the boost here, but you can see kind of like the rooster tail that's coming off the back of the boat is a good indicator of how much drag the boat is having here, and you can kind of see it dip down into the water with the waves. So probably not what she was hoping for here. A lot of bounce right there as she's coming through the waves. You know, I think a lot of that is just the setting and the condition.
And to get into the top 4, she's actually got to get under 1:18.5. I'm not sure she's going to be able to do that. Let's have a look as she comes across the line. Rihanna O'Meara Hunt, no, it's a 1:19.4, and that keeps her in 5th place. And it is 5th and 6th teams that will not make it into the final part of qualifying. She's done both her laps, and that's it now. Unfortunately, they will not be going into that final part.
Yeah, she did improve between the original lap and the second lap, but I think it's just a matter of the condition. You know, there's a lot of drag underneath that boat, and I think that's just a result of the settings.
It is amazing the times that we are seeing in this session now, because yes, we did see Micah do an amazing time early today, but generally just recently we've been seeing him in the 1:19s, 1:20s. Now a lot of them are into the 1:16s, a couple in the one in the 1:17, 1:18. We might even see something a bit quicker in this final stage.
I think at the end of the day, this is all going to be about managing the conditions, and a proactive rider is going to do a lot better than a reactive rider. So, you know, if they're looking ahead and trying to anticipate the conditions, they're going to drive really well. And if they're kind of running as they go along, they're going to have a lot harder time. So let's see if Micah can stay consistent with that fast flying lap that he had earlier, and see if he pushes it even further to the edge.
Yeah, no, he looks as though he's in a pretty safe place already, and he could well be handing it over, of course, for the challenge for the championship, for the qualifying points. Tara Pacheco will take over if it goes into the next stage, which it will do because he's already done the time, unless you do an error, of course, and you don't get to finish the lap, then of course you might be in trouble. But I think he'll just put a lap together. They're safe already. Ooh, it's unusual to find another vehicle, somebody else there.
Yeah, those jet skis that you see on the track are actually safety marshals, so they're out there to make sure that, you know, nothing crazy's happening, keep our pilots safe. So that guy was probably where he was supposed to be, but cutting it a little bit close. But Micah had a great sector 1. That was the sector that he struggled with last time, so things are looking good for Micah here. The boat looks so balanced as he's coming through here. Not too much hunting, not too much bouncing despite the conditions. So sector 2 looking good too. Micah might be on for another hot one.
You're absolutely right, because the sector times are looking impressive so far. Is he going to get under that 1:16.8 of Team Brady? Let's see whether that's going to be improved even further. Definitely be going into scoring some points in the final qualifying session by the looks of things. But what is the time? Just coming across the line. Oh yes, done it.
There it is, 1:15 again.
1:15.9. Yeah, as you say, because he did a 1:15 earlier. Brilliant. Well done.
Micah is staying consistent today, so very good run. That boat is so balanced. Micah's not too high, not too low, looking good. Miracle worker out there. Love to see it.
Yeah, Michael Wilkinson doing a super job this today throughout the sessions that we've had, and the New Zealander has put on a great display. But as I say, he will be handing it over to Tara Pacheco, who's less experienced. She's still learning a lot because she hasn't been doing this form of motorsport or this form of racing. It's not motorsport in the same way as many of them have built their careers. This E1 is just a fantastic performance that they have to deliver. The E1 World Championship only into its 3rd year, but she's into her 1st full year. Right, Team Monaco, here we go. They are desperate to move up, and this is their last chance to see if they can gain a bit of time. Max Noscher, and he can be pretty impressive, so let's see.
So when it comes down to this Hail Mary moment, when you have one lap left to really pull your team out from the bottom, he's probably been sitting in the cool down milling area, speaking with his team, talking about the strategy, which sectors he's struggling with, how can he improve, what was Oben doing better, pulling in as much information as possible so that he can go full send on this lap right here, and hopefully it pays off.
Yeah, hopefully it pays off. But of course, if he can get Monaco into that top 4, there'll be others at a bit of risk. Aoki would be at risk, but then they've got another run.
Very smooth first sector. The boat's not too wet. He's keeping it moving forward, nice and stable. Let's see how it works out for him.
Yeah, that first sector's okay. It's not mega. As you say, he needs to really find a little bit something more special, and it still looks as though dragging a little bit too much through that section.
Yeah, absolutely. As he came around that transitional kind of dog leg on the right-hand side there, he just dipped it in too far, and then when he went to straighten back out, the belly of the boat was already wet. So it's really critical that you find that sweet spot between the bottom of the hole being wet and being too high that you're falling off the foils. And right now it looks like Max is just not in that spot.
Does a little bit, I'm afraid. Yeah, let's see whether this is going to be any kind of improvement for Monaco. So as he comes up towards the line, they had a 1:23 earlier. It's an improvement, it's a 1:20, but I'm afraid it's not enough to get into the top 4.
Really strong sector 3. It does look like the boat is very balanced. You know, when he's taking the straightaways, the boat stays nice and flat. You know, so I think that the boat handling is there. I think Max just needs to clean up his corners and try and keep that boat dry.
Yeah, that's a great shame. So Team Monaco looks like they won't be making it into the final 3. Principal Thierry Noche of that team, they'll be a little disappointed, but I think they're making good progress. You know, this team that is new, they are making progress, and I think they've got a real chance of scoring some good points tomorrow.
Yeah, you can't forget that these guys literally just created this team not too long ago and are starting fresh. So, you know, with Oben kind of helping lead the way with her experience, I think that they have the opportunity to do it. But for Max to come into this race with these kinds of conditions, you know, he's literally like learning to fly as he's driving the boat. So I think they can figure it out, but this is going to be a tough one for them. But the good news is everything resets tomorrow.
So now it's Aoki setting off, and they are effectively safe, but down in 4th position. So can they find just that bit more pace? Well, we're on board with Sarah Messier, and let's see, because we know that they have got great potential here at this circuit. They will be into the battle, and it's what's really interesting is that it does confirm now that we know that Miami and Monaco will not be going through. We do know that the top 3 in the championship, Westbrook, Brady and Aoki, will all be going into the battle for the points in the final part of qualifying.
As it stands, it seems that way, but it's not to be said that somebody could, you know, get a little naughty and get disqualified, get a lap deleted. You know, things can still happen, but yes, on paper right now, that's what it's looking like. I think for the most part, none of the troublemakers are on the track right now, so they're probably safe, but, you know, anything can happen in E1. There's still cards on the table.
And I guess the teams will be telling the pilots, look, don't do anything risky in this one now, because we just need to complete the lap. Doesn't matter if it's slower, but we will then be into the final part of qualifying. Whereas if you crash out because you're trying too hard, we might lose the chance.
I have unfortunately seen that on my own team. You know, just when you're pushing too hard and crashing out is the worst feeling ever. So it depends on the team you're on, though. There's some teams that really want to push it, and then there's other teams that are playing a long game, and, you know, we've seen that throughout the series. So I think Sarah's in a good position now to just fly it home.
Okay, let's see. It's a good lap that she's doing, actually. So this is going to be an improvement, I think, on what she's already done. Yeah, 1:15.2. She has gone fastest. Wow, Aoki go to the top. We've still got a couple more runs to go, but that was very, very impressive. And the Aoki team that took the win here last year, they are feeling so confident. This is great stuff, and they're very much in the championship battle. They will be trying to score the 3 points for fastest qualifying in the next session.
It definitely looked like she got the luck of the draw with the water condition on that particular lap. Not to say that she didn't run a screaming lap, but the water looked really flat compared to what Micah was running earlier. So a perfect storm for Team Aoki.
Danny Kloss, he will be taking it out for the final part to see whether he can score the points. So there'll be 4 teams, as you can see, going into the final stage. And only 3 of those teams will actually score. 3 points for fastest, 2 points for second fastest, and 1 for third. And whoever finishes fourth in that group won't. But it does look, even though we've got a couple of runs to go, let's see, because we can find out a bit more about how that battle might go, just to see how these last couple of runs go for Team Brady and for Westbrook, because they are all fighting each other in the championship.
I am curious to see if Emma has 2 seconds left in the tank here. You know, she's shaved a ton of time off between her last session and now, so, you know, does she have it in her to close the gap on Aoki and Drogba? We'll see. Sarah Price has also been running a fast lap. You know, the conditions might be getting smoother, because in this session we've seen all of these pilots close the gap substantially on Micah.
So here we are then getting ready for Sarah Price, for Westbrook to get underway, and Westbrook are currently 4th fastest in this session, so they are safe, but can they show that they've got a bit more pace? Although, as we said, it is worth not taking too big a risk at this point, because you don't want to damage the boat before you go into the final part of qualifying, or maybe not even get the chance to go to the final part of qualifying. So it's just getting the balance right now, and well, let's see how Sarah gets on.
Sarah's approaching the starting line here. She just eased off the boost, much like she did earlier, probably trying to not overshoot this corner right here. Looking good. You can see a little instability, but she's not slamming the boat down. Back on the booster here. She's carrying a lot of speed coming into this corner. Let's see if she can eliminate the drag through this corner and keep her speed up.
Absolutely, yeah. This is looking quite impressive so far. She wants to get into the 27s if possible. Doesn't quite into that first sector.
She did, however, take that corner just wide enough to keep the boat pretty level. Didn't see any water coming up over the wings or anything like that. So she's carrying a lot more speed than some of the pilots who are kind of bounce turning, dropping the wing into the water and kind of snapping back up. So, you know, while it may not have been the fastest sector, she's maintaining a lot of speed.
That's a good point. And if you can get this second sector done well, that can often make a big difference. Now, second sector's okay. It's not mega. Let's see how she does in the final part. She is safe. She will be going through to the next stage, but whether she can find that little bit of extra pace or not in this one, or will we'll just have to see how it goes.
She's riding pretty high on the foils right now, which is risky, and there's the gamble right there. So that did slow her down a little bit, but you know, her pace wasn't terrible. 118 is still pretty good.
Yeah, that is still a good time, no doubt about it, and they are pretty impressive, but it's not quite as quick as the time that she'd done earlier. She's safe anyway, so Westbrook will be going through into the final shootout, and it'll be Lucas Ordóñez who will be doing that last part. So yeah, we shall see. But they are a very good combination team, and leading the championship as they are at the moment, it's crucial to them to be consistently up at the top end. They are definitely doing that.
Compared to a lot of the other teams, I think the gap between pilots is the tightest between Sarah and Lucas, which is really good for them because that means that they have good communication, they're working together on the data, and they can stay consistent across. There's a lot of strain when you have one pilot that's significantly faster than the other.
Right, so this is the final run in this session for Team Brady, and Emma Kymäläinen is going to see whether she can improve on third place. She's 1.5 seconds off that fastest time so far, but there's an opportunity, but not worth a big risk, because she will be handing the boat over, of course, to her other pilot, Sam Coleman, for the final part, when they've got a chance to score some useful points. Only 5 points gap between the top teams.
You can tell she's definitely changed the boost strategy pretty significantly, and she may be doing that to try and match Sam and how he was executing his boost strategy. So she's turning the boost off as she enters the corners and then kind of peppering through the boost as she goes through the corner to try and keep her speed up. So, you know, the line and everything looks pretty good here. Emma looks pretty smooth. And I think also, you know, like you said, they don't want to risk it, but also some of it's a matter of confidence for Emma. She was clearly not happy earlier with the run that she did. She's one of the fastest pilots. So, you know, if she can nail a good lap here, she's going to feel good for the next session.
Okay, that first sector was not quite as quick as sometimes for her, but let's see how this goes for the run all the way down.
Sector 2 looks good. She kept that thing flying really well. Yep, Sector 2 is looking very good. If she can keep the boat up out of the water through here, that wasn't terrible. She kind of recovered there, so if she can get a good run to the finish, she might be looking good.
Yeah, so because that second sector was actually pretty impressive. So Emma Kymäläinen currently third fastest for Team Brady. Can she go up one place or do something just a little bit faster. 1:16.8 is what no, she's not quite as quick as she was earlier. It's a 1:18.7 because she had done a 1:16.8 earlier, but that's fine. It's fine. They've done a great job, and they are into the final part of qualifying when the points will be on offer, and that's what really matters. Get into that top 4. That's all that counts in this section. But I do feel for both Miami and Monaco, they've put in some good laps, but it hasn't quite worked for them to get into the final stage.
Yeah, they got close with that lap on the smooth water there for Rihanna, but it just didn't pan out for them. Unfortunately, other teams just really have it together. I think also the margin across the other teams is just a little bit tighter, so that really played to the benefit of Aoki and Drogba and the other teams in the top 3.
Absolutely. Well, it's still good for Westbrook, of course, because they have been leading the championship coming into this, and a real opportunity to try and do some more. For Team Brady, for Emma, well, they're a good 3rd place, so a good opportunity for them as well. Let's have a chance to have a chat. Emma, this is TV coming to you. You've managed to get the boat into that top 3 again for scoring more useful points, especially when all 3 of you top teams are going to be fighting together for that.
Yeah, it was a lot better this time. You know, looking into data, getting together with the team, and it makes all the difference. So, yeah, it's a learning curve. Every session we learn something new, and now Sam needs to put it up low to get 3 extra points.
Thank you. We shall see whether he can do that. Yeah, she's done exactly what she needed to do. Get the top 4 position, which she certainly achieved in 3rd place, 3rd fastest in that section, and they are now going to be fighting for those 3 points. And it could well change things a little bit, because as I mentioned, you've got these 3 teams who are going into this separated by 5 points. Westbrook on 60 points, Brady on 57, and Aoki on 55. All 3 of them will be going to that final section. So how will that open up? If Westbrook take pole, for example, and get an extra 3 points, then it could just increase their championship lead a bit more. On the other hand, if Brady get it, and Westbrook don't deliver, then suddenly we could have a tie for the championship going into the racing tomorrow. A lot more points on offer tomorrow, of course.
Every little bit definitely counts in this championship. It's definitely a long haul, but it's also a matter of, 1, confidence for your own team, and also kind of breaking the will of the other teams. You know, if you have a team that really sets the pace and seems unbeatable, it's going to seem like an impossible task for the other teams.
Absolutely. But impressive stuff, and well done to Team Aoki for setting the pace in that session. But will it be then the final session that they actually take the fastest of all? We shall wait and see. Let's just confirm those results then. And it was indeed Aoki. So team owner Steve Aoki, DJ and record producer, will be very happy with the way the team has been delivering so far with that 1:15.29. Drogba, which has had a tough year so far, fantastic, up into 2nd place. And then we've got the other 2 major championship contenders, Team Brady and Team Westbrook. They were 3rd and 4th in that session. They'll be swapping over the pilots. But as I say, it's a little sad that we have no longer going to be seeing Miami or Monaco in the qualifying battle. But in the racing tomorrow, I do believe they could well be contesters for going for victories.
We've seen the lap times get a lot quicker, and I think a lot of that has to do with just spending more time in the boat.
Absolutely. So that part is done. We now have our top 4 all lined up and a chance to catch up with Sarah Mazier. Let's go down and join Taylor.
Down here with Sarah Mazier. She's looking flawless, but more importantly, she's looking fast. Micah was out there putting those fast times, which we saw from earlier, and then you came out of nowhere. Beware the dragon. You guys got that top in the session.
Well, it was great. I didn't see it coming myself. I heard it over the radio, and I was shocked to hear it myself. But it felt good. It was a good lap. Putting together a lot of things. You know, everyone here has had limited time testing, so there was a lot to come back from Como. You know, this is home of the dragons. That is Croatia, Game of Thrones. So Beware the Dragon is what you should be aware of this weekend.
I love that. We were watching Danny out there earlier. Looked a little bit reckless going into the corner. Not that he was, but you kind of just have to just give it your all almost when you're out there.
Absolutely. You know, I took Danny's advice. He said to keep it tighter. Tried my best to do it. So came out with a 1:15. Was the best time for the weekend for myself. So I'm quite happy with it. Now Danny's got to go and do the same thing. So crossing fingers, going to sit down and talk him through what I felt, what he felt, and see if he can come out with a 1:14.
That's right. There is one more round, and this is the round that really, really matters. You got him into that great place, but this is where points come into play. So how important do these? They're not a bunch, but points still matter here.
Absolutely. The points here, as in the championship, were all close. I think it's like 4 or 5 points between us and P1. So every point here matters, you know, getting pole tomorrow. We're just trying our best, putting our heads down, and then racing tomorrow going to be exciting.
Lovely. Best of luck.
Thank you, guys.
Well, a lovely job from Sarah Mazier, and for the Aoki team, a good performance. And of course, there will be some points on offer in a short space of time. But we saw some delightful battles going on in that stage of qualifying. We are gearing up for Q4, the points scoring position of qualifying at the top end for this third round of the UIM E1 World Championship presented by PIF, as we have the top 4 teams coming through all the qualifying that's been done so far to fight against each other to see who scores the 3 points for the fastest time, 2 points for second fastest, and 1 point for third fastest. And of course it means great positioning for the opening race tomorrow when it all starts to build up even more for maximum points. And we have the 3 teams that are fighting at the top end of the championship after just 2 rounds of this 2026 series that are all in this battle here for the qualifying points as well. That is impressive to see, and they are beginning to line up, getting ready to go already, as we are seeing, there you are, Team Brady heading down with Sam Coleman, who will be taking over. And they are, of course, twice champions in E1, but they've got a bit more battle on their hands in this early stage of 2026. So there we go. We've got Drogba, who had one pole position once in the past, that team. Tara Pacheco, she'll be the pilot for this one. Team Brady, Sam Coleman, will be trying to do what Emma Kymäläinen did earlier this year, getting a pole. They've had several in the past. Aoki is Danny Kloss, who's going to be doing the competition, and Lucas Ordóñez will be pilot for Westbrook. So there they are, all getting out there, ready to go. Anna, and this is going to be a fascinating battle.
I think pilots to watch in this session are going to be Sam Coleman and Danny Kloss. After seeing their counterparts get faster in the last session, I'm curious to see if these two can also improve their already fast times. Additionally, Lucas Ordóñez, very consistent all day. Can he pull a faster time? And lastly, Tara has kind of struggled today, and whether or not she does well in this session is going to make or break it for Drogba, because Micah has had a screaming day out on the track.
Okay, well, this is going to be an absolutely fascinating time. And the fact that we have these top 3 teams, Westbrook on 60 points, Brady on 57 points, Aoki on 55, and they've got a chance to score some more points. And then well done to Team Drogba, which are last in the championship points at the moment. But there is a chance, if Drogba could actually deliver, then they might move up from last. But even if they don't, I think they'll be so pleased that they've got to this stage.
It's all about building throughout the entire season. We have several races left in this series. So if they can continue to build this momentum, tap into what Micah is doing behind the wheel, they could leapfrog several positions with one good weekend.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Drogba only a little bit behind Team Miami, not far away from Team Rafa. And Team Monaco, they're currently 7th. They didn't make it into this final 4. But of course, tomorrow, when all the points come out a bit more, then you get 38 points for the outright win. That can make a big, big difference. On board right now with Westbrook, with Lucas Ordóñez, as he is taking it on to the first flying lap. We're going to see 2 flying laps from each of these teams to establish who is going to set the outright pace here and see who takes the points.
He wasted no time getting his run started here. He's got a good charge approaching the starting line right now. Let's see how he can hold it coming into the first corner. Similar boost strategy to Sarah, who was in the boat earlier, letting off the boost as they enter that first corner and right back on it to maintain that momentum. It does look like it might be a little bit choppier coming around this first corner. Lucas getting a little bit sideways there, but he's maintaining the speed. I'm curious to see how he rounds this corner here, if he keeps it tight and keeps the boat a little bit wet, or keeps it nice and stable like Sarah did earlier.
Well, it's looking pretty good so far. 27.9 seconds is definitely up there on the pace for Lucas Ordóñez through that first sector. Best qualifying they've had this season so far. We've only had the 2 events so far. They qualified 2nd at Lake Como, but they are the points leaders overall from the races. 4 times in history has the team had taken top qualifying. Is this going to be the 5th time? We'll find out.
Very smooth through sector 2. That's reflected in the time. He's keeping the boat nice and level, not too high, not too low, and rounding this corner out really nicely. I'm wondering if that's to the benefit of the flatter water here, because that boat seems super stable. Let's see how he handles this last approach.
As you said earlier, it's sometimes an advantage to be the first one out when the surface is a little smoother than when you've had other boats going around. Let's see what the time is. Is it under 1 minute 20? It's not quite. Yeah, it's 1:17.3. That's good. It's not the fastest overall that we've seen, but but it is impressive. That's definitely in the game.
Lucas maintains his title as the consistent king. Between the two of them, they're both very close, which is good to see, but Lucas consistently lays down very similar lap times, which is good for the team, provides him a lot of data, and gives Sarah a lot of information to also try and match that time. They look very happy. Let's see what they can do for the rest of the session.
Yeah, it's encouraging, isn't it, as they go forward for the Westbrook team. Owner Will Smith and the principal Philip Allen keeping an eye on everything that's going on.
I know last season they struggled with a lot of technical issues. This was one of the races where they struggled pretty substantially just with the handling of the boat. So it's nice to see them having some good fortune here.
So Team Brady, the double champions. It is Sam Coleman who takes over now from Emma Kimiläinen, who did the last run. There's Emma. So let's see whether Sam is going to be able to improve on that 1:17.3 that has been set. Team Brady did take pole position at Jeddah, the first round of the season, and they have also, as a team, had 4 top qualifyings in the past.
Good approach coming across the start-finish line. He was on the boost just before crossing the start-finish line and then back off of it as he entered that corner. So he's maintaining his speed. The boat seems to be handling through the water really well. On and off the boost, I think, has really been the key for Team Brady. As long as they can keep the boat stable, getting on and off the boost is going to help keep that boat moving forward.
So heading around into the end of the first sector.
You can see some big rollers approaching the track right now. Sam may be fortunate enough to have just missed them, but if it takes him long enough to get around the track, you might see them on the start straight.
He's lost half a second in that first sector, but that doesn't always mean anything, because we've often found that if you get the speed out of that first sector into sector 2, you can obviously make the time up. How's it looking?
He's looking a little unstable in sector 2. I'm curious to see what that time looks like. The boat was kind of bowing down into the water a little bit with some of those rollers, but this corner looks...
Oh, that was better.
It looks better, but it's hard to say here. We're going to have to see the time at the end. You know, it definitely was not as smooth as his laps before, but the time is still looking okay.
Yeah, let's see how this final sector goes. That middle sector was very similar to what had been done, and across the line, it's going to be just under one. Well, yes. It doesn't actually, our clock hasn't stopped turning. It was a one, I am seeing it elsewhere, it's a 1:17.8, so it's just a fraction slower. I am seeing that on my screen, at 1:17.8, which is just a fraction slower than we have seen. Yes, there you see, it's just come up on screen now. It's half a second slower, so close, just not quite there.
I think Sam just got into some kind of unruly water there. There were a few spots where he seemed a lot more unstable than he has throughout the day. So he still has another lap to hopefully get a better draw on the water condition. But we're seeing a lot of choppy water on this section of the track, especially, which is making an already difficult corner even more difficult.
Well, we shall see how former powerboat champion Sam Coleman, who's won this E1 series in the last 2 years, how it's going to work out for the rest of the weekend. But now we're watching Drogba, who've been through up and downs once in their time in E1. They have had the top qualifying. Tara Pacheco, though, of course, she's still learning because she's a bit more of a rookie in competing in E1. So there's a lot to learn, and she's got to try and, I'm sure she's been learning as much as she can this weekend.
She had a pretty good drive coming across the start-finish, and then right as she hit the start-finish line, the bottom of the hole just kind of kissed the water a little bit. You can see these are big rollers coming through here. The boat got a little bit upset, but she seemed to maintain it. Again, kind of unstable through the chop there. You know, that is not, it's difficult to kind of, you know, guesswork around that. So especially as a younger pilot in the series in terms of experience, that can be very difficult.
Yeah, first sector 31.3, not great, I'm afraid. She's definitely not getting the sort of pace required to take on Westbrook and Team Brady. But for Team Drogba still to be in the top 4 is a good position in terms of the starting position for the first race tomorrow.
You can see the boat getting really unruly on the backstretch there. You know, the waves that are coming across the side of the boat will make it kind of want to teeter back and forth, and if you're not looking ahead to deal with those settings, you know, it's going to slow you way down.
Yeah, that second sector, actually a reasonable job on that second sector, quite similar to some of the others. So let's just see how this final sector goes. Is she going to be able to bring it into the battle with those other two? Only half a second splitting them at the moment. I think it might be just a fraction off. Let's have a look. Oh, it's actually quite a lot off at the end there.
Yeah, she got on the boost kind of in the middle of that section there, and she did it right as she was hitting some rollers, so it not only upset the boat because of the waves, but then she kind of doubled down by hitting the boost at the same time. So the boat really kind of wheelied and then bounced a few more times, and that was the end of her lap.
Well, she'll have another chance. They all get a second flying lap to have a go at that. And it was actually, yeah, as you say, it was the first sector she lost a bit too much on. The final sector she lost a bit. The middle sector she did a reasonable job. So maybe she can try and rebalance it when she goes out for her second run. And she is, of course, still learning so much at the moment, Tara Pacheco, because coming into this series, did her first event at Lake Como. So she's only ever had the one full event coming into this, so it's a challenge, but it's great she's managed to have a go at this qualifying run. Now then, Aoki. Let's see how Team Aoki get on with Danny Kloss, and again another team that has 4 times been top qualifier in E1.
Danny's definitely one of the most aggressive pilots on the track. Sometimes that's a gamble for him, and it sometimes results in bumping into smart marks or other pilots, but during qualifying there's not much in his way, so he can really run an aggressive lap. And I know Sarah mentioned earlier that Danny told her to tighten things up, and that's what we were discussing earlier, was Danny's running such a tight line around the smart marks that he's actually running the risk of clipping them. So I do believe that that tight line is the way to go, but only if you can manage it. You know, if you get the boat too wet when you kind of dive bomb into the corner, you run the risk of slowing down. And Danny seems to have it figured out, but you can see he's really cutting it close.
That was, I was just looking at that. He was so close, but perfect. He didn't clip it. So that was a good run and decent first sector, not the fastest, but very much sort of on terms with the fastest ones we've seen in this session so far. So potentially into the battle with Westbrook and Brady.
This last corner has been difficult for a lot of people running a tight line because you're actually driving the boat into the backside of rollers. So we'll see if Danny's able to keep the boat stable or if he gets a couple wheelies like that.
Yeah, they're definitely dipping a little bit more there, but picking it back up once again. You don't want to dip too much though, and maybe just losing out a fraction. So is he going to be able to get up into the top 3? Definitely, I think there's a chance, but into the top 2, I'm not sure. Okay, coming across the line.
He's run out of boost at the tail end of this lap here, which may have slowed down his drive a little bit.
So he's gone into 3rd place, a 1:19.1. Remember that the top 2 have done 1 minute 17. 1:17.3 is the fastest, 1:17.8 second fastest. So Westbrook currently fastest, Brady 2nd, Aoki up into 3rd with that 1:19.1, but it was not the perfect lap for Danny Kloss. And in 4th place, it is Drogba with Tara Pacheco. Now, they all have a chance. One more lap to actually determine who's going to score the points. But right now, it is the championship leading team, Westbrook, who are currently on 60 points, who are on terms to get the extra 3 points to lead and further extend their championship lead.
We see a really good example right here of how this championship works, where with Team Drogba you have Micah, who was one of the fastest pilots of the day, but unfortunately Tara has not been able to match his pace. So while Micah would normally be at the top of the timetables, the combined standings are not doing them any favors, whereas Westbrook may not be the fastest lap of the day, but both pilots are very close. So when they're combined, they are at the top of the timetable. So if Lucas can maintain a consistent lap here, they could take it.
Well, here we go then. This is going to be fascinating. Can Westbrook go even quicker than they've gone already with that 1:17.3, just to try and make it even harder for everybody else? It's a bit of a rock there. Still makes the turn.
Tight corner there for Westbrook. I think Lucas is really pushing it now. He's definitely running a much tighter line than he was earlier. Very aggressive on the steering. You can see it in his hands. So we'll see what he can come up with here. Earlier they were taking these lines slightly wider to keep the boat up. It looks like they're still doing that. A little bit deeper of a dive there, but he's maintaining that speed, which is critical.
Yeah, that looks impressive, and he's done the best first sector by a tiny margin, 27.9, but in this group he has set a slightly faster first sector. As you say, he looks very determined. It's worth it because he's already set the pace. It's worth taking a few more risks now.
You can see him heading into these rollers as well. He had one little dip, but seems to be managing it pretty well. This is where he's going to make it or break it, is coming around these corners here. If he can keep the boat dry and keep the momentum up, we could see a faster lap.
Have a look at this. How does the boat look through here? That's looking quite controlled.
There was a little bit of a drag there, but he pulled out of it, probably utilizing the boost to keep it up. You can see he's on the boost right now, making his final approach. We'll see if he can... A little bit of a dip there, but still moving forward. Let's see how that time looks.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a dip, but he's done really well in the first 2 sectors. He seems to be losing out just a little bit in this final sector. Yeah, I think there was some technical issue. I think he's talking to the team because suddenly it dropped away.
I did notice that he did run out of boost right around the time that we noticed him slow down, but there could be more going on than that. But regardless, if there was a problem, the time still looked very good. So, I think they're in a good position.
No, the first 2 sectors were the fastest we've seen in this session, but it was that final sector where definitely he was about 3 to 4 seconds slower than we have seen around that final sector. So that was a bit strange, but as you say, it might have been something to do with the boosting.
So we're hearing from the team radio that Lucas feels that the course has changed. So that could be 2 things. It could be A, he's concerned about the water condition, or B, it could be that some of the smart marks have moved. If the smart marks have drifted at all, it can drastically change the course, it can change the lap time. So I'm not 100% certain if he feels that it was the condition or the smart mark, but either way, that could have contributed to his time.
Well, he's still fastest at the moment from the earlier lap, so it's still a chance to see whether they will get the 3 points, but that was a very interesting lap, as you say, and it will be interesting to hear afterwards exactly what happened.
Regardless of Lucas's struggle at the end, I think, again, it's a testament to having 2 very consistent pilots and a really strong team. So, having the 2 of them very close in their timing makes things better. You can have one really fast pilot, but they can't always carry a slower pilot to the top.
Yeah, Sarah Price has been doing a great job with Lucas Ordóñez for Team Westbrook, and well, they are fastest at the moment, but you've still got the other 3 teams to do their second lap now, and there is a chance. As we know, it's only half a second gap between Westbrook and Team Brady. We're now looking at Team Brady with Sam Coleman on board, and let's see how this goes for Sam.
The approach was a little bit bumpy, but he still has time to make up for it. And Sam has been running 117s all day, so it's not to say that he couldn't edge Westbrook out slightly. Even if it's a hair, it matters a lot here.
Yeah, but this is where he's got to really get it right and not make any errors. He's got to be aggressive on the turns, but try not to clash anything. And so far, it's looking all right.
We're definitely looking at a more aggressive line from Sam coming into that first corner. I'm curious if the strategy from Team Brady was to let it all hang out or just keep the consistency. So I think we're going to see a Hail Mary from Sam here. He's taking these corners much tighter than he was earlier, just dive bombing into those corners and bouncing back out of them, looking very good. The boat's very stable. Even though he's getting that wing wet, he's riding it very quickly to keep the momentum.
Yeah, but he has lost a little bit in Sector 1, so whether he's actually going to be able to challenge Westbrook's 117.3, I'm not sure.
We watched in the last lap, we watched Lucas kind of fade at the end. So, if Sam runs a solid lap and carries it all the way to the end, he could overtake Lucas's lap.
Okay, well, let's see how this goes for Sam Coleman into the final section now. Good middle sector. So he set the fastest middle sector of anybody so far, but he was a little bit behind on the first sector. So this final sector, he's got to get absolutely right.
The rollers are coming in, so if he can stay balanced, he could take it. It's looking pretty good, but he is dangerously high on the foils right now.
117.3 to beat. Can he manage to do that as he comes over the line? No, it actually is a bit slow. 119.3, I'm afraid. So that final sector did not go particularly well. So stays in second place from the time done earlier, but nonetheless, that's potentially some useful points for Team Brady. But it's looking good for Westbrook for getting 3 points. Brady currently in target to get 2 points, but let's see what Aoki can do.
Absolutely, every little point is going to count in this championship. We've seen things come down to the wire, so any point that Sam Coleman and Team Brady can grab is going to help them in their battle to catch up to Westbrook, and I'm sure that Westbrook knows that they have championship winners right at their heels.
So we've got Drogba next, and this is Tara Pacheco, and she was just a little bit off in that first part. She's still learning, she's still getting into the whole system of what it's like to go qualifying, and she was a little bit off, but let's see whether she's learning. She'll have been talking to the team, she'll have been trying to they've been explaining to her, right, try this, try that, and let's see if she can manage it.
It seems like the 2 major things that Tara seems to be struggling with is, A, in the start straights, when she gets on the boost, it looks like the boat's getting away from her a little bit with some instability, which comes from a lot of preemptive moves on the settings, and then it also looks like she's dragging quite a bit through the corners. So if she can tidy those things up, I think she can be on pace with Micah.
Absolutely, and I'm sure Micah Wilkinson has been setting some great laps with this, has been talking to her and explaining to what he does. 29.2 in that first sector is okay, but it's not particularly rapid, so it doesn't look as though she's going to be able. She could move up from where she is, but I'm not sure that she's actually going to be able to be fast enough to take on Aoki in third. We shall see this second sector rocking around a bit.
Yeah, definitely a lot of instability through there. You could see her bouncing quite a bit. You know, I think that's probably a settings issue as she's moving through these big rollers. But, you know, the foundation is there. We've seen some glimpses of greatness, but I just think today's not her day.
Yeah, and that second sector has not gone particularly rapidly, I'm afraid. So I think it's going to end up being a bit similar time to the one she'd already done. She's done a 1:22.4 in the first flying lap. Let's see, it's going to be slightly off that, actually. She's going to be, yeah, it's a let's have a look. Oh, she still hasn't crossed the line. 1:27 in the end. So yeah, that was a disappointing lap, and she's bashing her helmet. I know all of us as racers do that sometimes when we don't feel as though we've delivered what we should have done, banging our crash helmet. But don't worry, because Drogba, I think, are still in good shape generally around here, and tomorrow will be a chance to score points in the races.
Based on how the boat was handling, I think she was having some issues with the trim. You know, she was doing a lot of hopping, a lot of wheeling. So, you know, if she can regroup with Micah and the team, there's still a chance that they do well tomorrow. And, you know, when you get 6 boats on the track, anything can happen. So
here's the last chance for anyone to try and snatch that top spot. And it is Danny Gloss with Aoki. Potentially they can do it. They've had pole positions in the past, the fastest qualifying in the past, but can it come together? Because they haven't quite shown it in the last couple of runs.
According to Lucas Ordonez, it sounds like the conditions, as you can see, are getting quite a bit rougher, so that may slow down the lap times a little bit. A couple bounces like that can shave seconds, just add so much time. So if you bounce here and then you bounce in sector 2 and you bounce in sector 3, that could be several seconds worth of time slowing you down. So, you know, Danny is usually a pretty fast qualifier, but when the conditions get rough, you really have to be on top of things.
Does feel like that, and you did say early on when Lucas Ordonez did that flying first lap, being the first out there, it does seem to have got a bit more bumpy out there with more boats going around the course.
Absolutely. When the boats are going around in a circle like this, it's kind of like a bathtub. You know, they're kind of aerating all this water. You know, the race birds don't disrupt the water as much as most leisure boats, but it's still turbulence that you have to deal with. And then on top of that, we're in a situation where we have an interesting amount of wind coming off the mountain here. We also have directional waves coming out from outside the shore and then bouncing off the shore as well. So the pilots really have obstacles coming from all directions that can make things very difficult. But Danny looks like he's making the most of it here. If he can keep the bird out of the water, I think this should look like a pretty clean lap.
Yeah, it's a decent lap, but I'm not sure it's going to be changing the positioning that we've got here. It looks like it could well be the same order. We're just coming up towards the line, and now he's done a 1:19.1 on the previous run, and it's slightly slower this time, coming across the line, a 1:21.98. So the order remains the same. They've managed to get the 1 point, but it is the Westbrook team that have taken the top position in qualifying with that 1:17.3, and the championship leading team have scored 3 points, with Team Brady scoring 2 points. So interestingly, they've actually gained an extra point in that championship battle. But yeah, they're congratulating each other, lovely to see. And they are going to be key champion battlers all the way through the season, I think. But well done to Westbrook, well done to Lucas Ordonez for taking that top spot.
I know Westbrook faced a lot of technical issues last season, so it's good to see them with a solid boat and lots of consistency. And to me, personally, I think consistency is king. You know, you can be the fastest pilot out there, but if you can't keep that fast lap up every single lap, it's not going to pay off. So seeing a team that's very consistent across the board is great.
Oh, well, well done to the team. I'm sure the team owner, Will Smith, will be very, very happy with what has happened. And we've got a chance now to catch up with our fastest qualifiers. Let's go and join Taylor.
Westbrook Racing has done it. You've picked up that top spot in qualifying along with those 3 extra points, which That's going to keep you on the top spot. This is what you wanted. But Lucas, where'd you find that speed out there?
Well, yeah, the conditions changed a lot through the day, but in this evening it was beautiful to handle the race bear in these conditions with flatter water, with the sunset here in Dubrovnik was really amazing feeling. But yeah, I just tried to keep on foils as we always try, and the lap came. But I thought, to be honest, I said on the radio to Matt, my engineer, that I think these guys can improve my lap. So I missed some little details on the boost and on the cornering, but yeah, enough for pole position. So yeah, we celebrated too early, but now we can celebrate.
That's my fault. Sarah Price was down here celebrating, and Aoki hadn't finished yet, but luckily Lucas still held on. What does this mean heading into tomorrow?
Oh, this is amazing. Like for our team, I don't think we've ever actually won qualifying, so we've always been right there. Lucas just killed it right now. Like that's a lot of pressure being in the boat, and for us to watch, it's even more like nerve-wracking, I feel like, than it is being in the boat. But I'm just so proud of the team, and obviously we've had a crazy last season, and then now this season we're starting to pull it back. But yeah, I embarrassingly, accidentally might have celebrated thinking Aoki had already gone, so that was super embarrassing. Sorry guys, don't leave me in charge of format, results, and all that. Just drive the boat.
There was no jinxing, no jinxing. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, they did a fabulous job, and they will be very much looking forward to the event tomorrow, of course, with a big series of races building up all the way through the day until you get into the final stages when you can score the points. But let's just confirm the positions in qualifying then. So Westbrook taking the top spot, Lucas Ordóñez P1, Team Brady in second with Sam Coleman, and Aoki in third with Danny Kloss. And these three teams are fighting in the championship. And P4 for Drogba, for Tara Pacheco, who didn't quite have the pace that she wanted, but Michael Wilkinson had shown that the Drogba is actually working really well here. So there's a good chance that tomorrow, when they get into the races, it will be superb. Well, it has been a fantastic opportunity and a real chance to see some very impressive performances out there.
It's crazy.